a news article that I read tonight. What is gaslighting? And this is by Forbes Health, and you can go to Forbes.com. I put the information, the resource, the link to Forbes in the description box to this video. So, what is gaslighting? Meaning, examples, and support. So, hopefully, you never have to use this information or um, at any time in your life, but it's better to be informed than not, because being gaslighted is a serious situation. It's a serious crime. And I'll give you a little bit about my experience behind being a victim of gaslighting by doctors and police officers. I mean, a lot of professionals here in Amarillo, Texas. So I just want to read this article to you um, from the Forbes Journal. So let's begin. So I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs from this, and then I'll give my commentary on it. So, table of contents. It is sometimes, right, if someone is intentionally distorting reality to make you feel like what you're seeing or feeling isn't real, you could be a victim of gaslighting. Gaslighting can come from a romantic partner, a boss, a family member, a doctor, or anyone else in a position of power. If you're being gaslit, there are clear steps you can take to deal with your abuser and get help. So here's common signs of gaslighting that Forbes Health in this article gives by PhD doctors. And so here's some right here. Signs to watch for include the twilight zone effect. Victims of gaslighting often report feeling like a situation is surreal, like it's happening on a different plane from the rest of their life. Language describing you or your behavior as crazy, irrational, or over emotional. When I ask women about their partner's abusive tactics, they often describe being called a crazy chick. It says bitch, but I'll say crazy chick. Sweet writes in the sociology of gaslighting, an American sociological review. This phrase came up so frequently, I began to think of it as the literal discourse of gaslighting. So men and women can be split in a relationship, is what Sweet is saying in that paragraph. Being told you're exaggerating, feeling confused and powerless after leaving an interaction. Isolation. Many gaslighters make efforts to isolate victims from friends, family, and other support networks. That is serious when the perpetrator, the victimizer, causes you to become isolated. You might think that you're the strongest person alive. You might think it would never happen to you. But trust me, I've been there. And when you're psychologically manipulated, it's a terrible experience. You want to talk about spiritual darkness or just darkness? That's where you'll be at when you're isolated behind gaslighting. So, an ex coworker of mine called it blackball, and what that means is to be ostracized, to be ostracized from society. Here in the United States of America, like that means is you can't depend on the local police department, the local district attorney offices. You can't depend on any state regulatory office, even to the point of the Department of Justice. But that's my personal experience and my personal opinion about what's happening. What's happening in my life for the last 4.5 years of being a victim of serious crimes and making serious allegations, which is based on proof. I have a lot of proof, but that's what isolation does or gaslighting does when it isolates you, man, you you feel betrayed by humanity, your friends, your family, your wife or your husband, your kids, everybody. Um, tone tone policing. A gaslighter may criticize your tone of voice if you challenge them on something. This is a tactic used to flip the script and make you feel that you're the one to blame rather than your abuser. And there, a cycle of warm code behavior. To throw a victim off balance, a gaslighter may alternate between verbal abuse and praise, often even in the same conversation. So I also even have um, audio recordings with a nurse practitioner here in Amarillo, Texas, going back in 2019 when I was being gaslit. She didn't verbally abuse me, cuss me, but she did praise me. So the sole intention was to keep me in self doubt and confusion. So gaslighting. This is from Forbes. I recommend that you go to Google search and type in Forbes.com, and the title is "What is Gaslighting Meaning?" And look at this and educate your mind to prepare your mind from ever having to experience being gaslit. So what's the practical lesson behind this? Like, how do we? So this is good to be educated in, right? But what's the practical lesson? So this is my experience. This is 4.5 years later after my third work accident at the Allen Butler Construction Inc. company based in Lubbock, Texas, and they have a second office now here in Amarillo, Texas. I was working highway bridge um, demolition and construction. So I was involved in 3 work accidents in a time span of 6 months. I was being threatened. So my first work accident, I was threatened by the general superintendent. He flat out told me if I tried to sue him, it wasn't going to work. And this work accident was in February of 2018. So imagine that. I'm not even from Texas. I'm from Denver, Colorado. So when he told me this, I was like, something's up here, This guy's threatening me. So obviously he's connected or well connected to somebody here with a lot of power. Because when he put his hands on his waistband, he revealed he had his gun in his holster. Now that was against the Butler Construction Inc. policy for any worker. Yeah, you couldn't have a gun at work, right? I mean, that's just common sense stuff. But this guy would talk stuff to everybody. He's an old man, cussing at people, you know. So he just in my eyes, it's a chunk right here. He got to have a gun, right? A murder weapon, because that's what guns literally are. They're murder weapons or they're killing weapons. They're made for military and or to murder people. So that was my first work accident. So that's being gaslit, extreme gaslighting, right? He turned the table around to make me feel like it was my fault for the work accident, which it wasn't, because the superintendent had me in a off the clock in a company vehicle when he backed and collided into a heavy machine. It's called a roller. So the second work accident was on Cinco de Mayo. So now this is discrimination. This is a different aspect of my workers' compensation claim. I have 3 open injured worker compensation claims here in Texas, but this is 4.5 years later, and the system is just corrupt. I mean, being ostracized, yeah, that's real when you're being gaslit by a lot of professionals, powerful doctors and attorneys and police officers. I mean, even going into government offices like the Texas Department of Workers Compensation and the Office of the Injured in what is it? The Office of the Injured Employee Council. It's an office that's supposed to help you and assist you with your Texas Injured Work Compensation claim when you can't hire an attorney. Um, I was hit in the back for no reason. It was no work accident. This was assault. And I was denied medical treatment. And then the third work accident happened. So that was Cinco de Mayo 2018, right here on I-27 in Hollywood Road of 2018, May 5th, 2018, right? So people driving on that bridge in that area remember the highway bridge construction that was taking place. And this is the crimes that were happening out there. A month later, on June 18, 2018, for no apparent reason, the excavator operator crushed me. He lowered an excavator bucket on top of my hard hat. I was in a squat position with the crew. There's witnesses all around. And he was unconscious. I was crushed, my whole body. I'm, Baruch Hashem, bless God, I'm alive. Because when you hear them stories out there, work accidents involve heavy machinery, it usually results in fatalities because this is heavy machinery having contact with a human body. So I was crushed, knocked unconscious. I wake up 60, 70 feet, face down in at least 3.5 inches of water. I didn't wake up choking or anything, and I don't know how long I was unconscious for. But when I woke up, I looked to my left, and I saw the distance between me and the excavator, right, and the crew. These cats were still working. They were working like they didn't see me get crushed. Anybody that operates heavy machinery, especially an excavator, right, your eyes is constantly on the excavator bucket. So when I woke up, these people were still working. And it took 3 hours for the employer to take me to an urgent health clinic. I got nothing but medical files that support all this. Everything I'm telling you right now, it's in my Texas Department Workers' Compensation claim. There's 3 work-related accidents that are open, and 3 of them I was denied medical treatment, even though in these medical documents I could show that I went to these urgent healthcare clinics, even both hospitals here, to the emergency department, the Baptist St. Anthony Hospital emergency department and the Northwest Texas Hospital emergency department. So imagine that, being gaslit, right? Because when I woke up and I panicked, got up, because on my work site, I could have got run over by a heavy machinery or a company truck. But I had made eye contact with the foreman because where I was at the stack yard, and southeast was where the concrete finisher foreman and their crew were at the bridge. So when I woke up, I looked at him, and I swear me and him made eye contact. So I got up panicking, waving, and then I went unconscious again. And obviously they ran to me and got me to my feet, woke me up. Like, what happened? I told them, hey, I was just crushed. They're like, where? I said, my hat and my back, my neck. So they're like, take off your shirt. I'm like, man, man, to me, everything seems surreal. I was just crushed. I mean, extreme body trauma, extreme brain trauma, right? Nothing was broken, but the pain I feel today all over my body. I mean, the swelling, it feels like I think that my neck is broken and my back is broken. But anyway, so that's the story. And then I had a series of follow-up appointments from that time going into 2019, and where the gaslighting aspect comes from medical doctors. Check this stuff out. So that first day I went to that urgent healthcare clinic, I had to wait in examination room for 3.5 hours before I was seen. Personally, in my opinion, I think these doctors were waiting, and my employer, because remember, my employer is a private contractor, but they won a bid. They're the company. They're the company that won the bid, the lowest bid here in Amarillo City, to perform construction on this bridge, demolition and construction to rebuild the bridge wider and everything, and more bridges. So now this involves even TxDOT, right? Their policies, their laws, all that stuff, their regulations. It don't mean anything because that's just their theory, right? That's their policy, but the practical application, it's non-existent, at least for me. But remember, you know, all this happening, this is discrimination, violent discrimination. I mean, man, these cats didn't like me because I'm Native Mexican American, I'm Pascual Yaqui, and I'm half white, I'm a half, you know, so you know, recently I found out I'm Sephardic descendant Jew and Orthodox Jewish descendant from the Spanish Jews, like from Spain, right? Because I had my DNA tested. But from my mom's side, I knew about the Ashkenazi from Germany and Polish and Russia, Yugoslovakia, right? So these cats, you know, this was the reason why I was being discriminated out there was because of, you know, I'm Native Mexican, I'm Pascual Yaqui. A lot of the workers were Mexican Americans, and a lot of them were white Americans, right? Um, just a terrible experience at this company. And after my second work accident, I couldn't quit because I was hitting the back with an excavator bucket that weighed 5 tons. My stomach still sticks out from 4.5 years later. My stomach still sticks out and it's swollen. And, you know, I'm still being gaslighted by doctors. They try to tell me, oh, you're just overweight. I said, I wish the pain I'm experiencing was from being overweight. But you're talking to a person that plays basketball or used to play basketball. You're talking to a person that's very athletic. I mean, I used to jog, you know, 3 to 5 miles a day in my 30s, you know. I used to right here in Amarillo City when I first came here in 2017 at the downtown, I forget the name of the park, and go play basketball. I used to go play basketball by the park where I used to live on Southwest 45th and in between Georgia, I believe, and Washington. So the gaslighting, so man, that first experience, they had me wait. They told me to go to sleep. I fell asleep on the bed, right, in the examination room. The nurses kept waking me up, but the way they were doing it was kind of weird to me. But remember, I just got crushed, so I'm having the freaking life emergency going on, and it's been delayed. I haven't received medical treatment. It's already been past 3 hours, right? And the nurse tells me, you know, hey, we want you to lay down and turn TV on, and it's going to be a while before the doctor gets here or before the doctor can see you. So here's a remote control and turn the TV on and lay down. And if you're tired, go ahead and fall asleep. Now, there's mixed reports about a person from with the concussion. Okay, you're not supposed to let them fall asleep after they wake back up from being unconscious. Then they say um, it helps a person when they're unconscious. I mean, if you know, I guess induce coma or something, or if they go to sleep, it's okay. It's mixed reports about that, right? What I do know is that the emergency department told me. So this is 2 days later. They told me to have whoever I live with to keep an eye on me and make sure that I wake up. So you see how this information I was given, right, by the emergency department and these nurses over here. But they will come, this nurse will come knock on the door, she'll come tap on it all quiet. Tap, 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 tap. Mr. Talking Box Show. Mr. Talking Box Show. I'm not gonna say my last name. I'm gonna put my information out there because you know, these cats know who I am and everything. Um, so I gotta protect myself. Right? I gotta use wisdom to protect myself because I'm making serious allegations on social media, and I mean, I'm not protected by the state here in the state of Texas. Nope, I'm not to them. According to them, the way they're treating me, I'm not. I'm a non-American citizen. So you know, so this nurse did it 3 or 4 times, and remember, so 3.5 hours later, yeah, I fell asleep. She kept waking me. And sometimes, like maybe the last second or maybe the third time, I was already awake, and the fourth time, because something was strange, right? The way she was creeping in on me all quietly, and she wasn't trying to wake me up. She was just whispering, you know, to see if I was conscious, I guess, or even if I was alive. Because so now, by the time the nurse practitioner sees this is what? So this I got crushed after 9 a.m. that morning. So about 9:15 a.m. I have the document that shows that I was taken to this urgent healthcare clinic that same day at 11:50 a.m. And then the X-ray report shows that around 3:30, 4 o'clock is when they took the X-rays. So I had to wait 6.5, almost 7 hours to be medically treated in an emergency. An injured worker crushed with an excavator bucket. Point of contact was my hard hat. My hard hat had, small fractures in it, minute fractures, 3 or 4 of them. And so I was just being gaslit. But remember, I have a head injury and body trauma. Just got my whole body was crushed because I was in I was in a squat position. So, anyways, took X-rays. The nurse practitioner said nothing's broken. You don't have injuries. I'm releasing you back to work. And she was like, "Here, pull your pants down and bend over." And she had a big old needle, right? She reached on the little pan, the tray, got a big old needle out. And I was like, "What's that needle for?" She's like, "That's for the inflammation in your neck." I didn't understand what inflammation meant because I was going through a life emergency. It just got crushed. Everything was surreal, right? And then how everything panned out. And so she gave me a shot in my buttock, right, and sent me back to work. So that's an example of being gaslit even by your workers, because when I came back, I don't know how long I was unconscious for, but by the time I got to this clinic, I was still soaking wet. That's just how much water I was in. And these doctors didn't report this. They didn't write this down. But I was soaking wet. And when I woke up and looked to my left, the operator of the excavator operator, and the crew, right? There's at least, almost 10 of us, somewhere between like 7 and 10 workers out there when I got crushed. And they were working. Imagine that. So I guess, what it seems like too is that, you can be gaslit by coworkers. So this is where I get the proof and evidence that, look, these cats try to murder me at work. And that's how inhumane these cats were. I was out there trying to make sure everybody was alive every day and making sure I was trying to prevent injuries, educating my coworkers. I didn't have to do, I was just a laborer, but I was doing a lot of work out there and I was being discriminated. And this is around the time, the third work accident was around the time for my promotion. It was the company review. And by that time, I never worked construction or bridge construction. So I learned a lot of tools, right? I learned how to operate machinery rollers. I was training new employees on these rollers in 3 months. And then I was operating a front loader all in 3 months. And I was operating different rollers. They wouldn't put these new workers or, anyone else on these rollers but me. Pneumatic rollers. I don't even know what these rollers names were. I can't remember what they were, but they had spikes in the roller. Different rollers they use for construction on a bridge. And then the front loader, and I was only getting paid $12 an hour. And then I stepped in and I became the traffic coordinator in experience. I was working with the subcontractor supervisor with his fleet of 30 trucks, semi trucks, belly dump trucks, coming off and on the highway bridge for $12 an hour, But that's an example of being gaslit by coworkers when, they didn't see what happened. Even the operator of the excavator didn't, was still working. Then you go to the clinic, right? Like the employer, like nobody called 911 because they were treating me like this wasn't an emergency, like a life emergency. Yeah, I just got crushed. I'm glad to be alive today. I'm disabled. I'm partially crippled, right? But this is examples of being gaslit, and then the series of follow-up appointments with these doctors. Man, at least 20 follow-up appointments, and in these examination rooms, man. So June 20th, 2018, my follow-up, right? 2 days later, after I got crushed, I went back to the same clinic. That's my primary care provider. I didn't know that the employer was paying out of their pocket for my medical treatment, even though they have insurance carrier for their works. And the name of this insurance carrier is Texas Mutual Insurance Company. So that's illegal. This company was, committing fraud, not just with me, but another worker the year before that I found out about from this worker after my first work accident. Texas Mutual Insurance Company is engaging in insurance fraud too. And the Texas Department of Workers' Compensation, they're allowing it to happen. The Texas Office of the Employee Council, the director, I forget his name, I have his name written down, but he's allowing these people to get insurance fraud. He told me, powerful, he can't help me. This can't help me because there's powerful people involved in my Texas injured workers compensation claim, right? So now when I tell people this, automatically they think you're crazy. That's a crazy conspiracy, right? You're gonna gaslight me. It's all learned behavior when you think about it. Why would you assume that, right? Why would you automatically think a person is exaggerating or fabricating the story, right? But that's all learned behavior. So that's something I want to point out too. But during these follow-up appointments, I walked away with no medical diagnoses for the first clinic, and that was 3.5, almost 4 weeks, a month long. So at least I went to at least 4 or 5 follow-up appointments with that first clinic here in Amarillo, Texas. And the nurse practitioner, when I first met her, she was arguing with me. She was telling me I was lying about my work accident. This is where the gaslighting comes in. She told me I was only hit in the head with an excavator bucket. I wasn't crushed. Therefore, I had no injuries. So see, she minimized my work accident and she minimized the injuries, right? She was telling me I was lying. So now I'm being accused. Now I'm being criminalized, right? Now I'm being, and here, I want to stop right here something out. When you get into the political, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Democrat, Republicans, right? Politicians, I want to point something out. Be unbiased when you listen to both sides of the story. But it seems like the Republican side, the politicians, they always have to have a target. Donald Trump, remember, what was he saying about the black and brown communities here in the United States of America, blaming us with our gangs and everything, right? And offering no logical solution to end gangs, right? And the drug epidemic. So these young cats that are out there gang banging even know there's been like 3 or 4 waves of drugs. I mean, you had freaking crack cocaine, um, you know, can't say marijuana, but alcohol. And then the methamphetamines came in, right? So I remember back in the 1980s, methamphetamine was different. That stuff they called was ice. That stuff was tinted blue, compared to the methamphetamines that people are getting high off of today. And then the opioid pandemic. So the whole purpose of these epidemics that happen in these minority communities is to, and remember, it's not just black and brown communities. I mean, I'm from Denver, Colorado, people in California, East Coast, everyone I see in here in the United States of America, right? You go into the community, these poor communities, who do you see in there? You don't just see all black people, right? You see black, white, Mexican, Latino, Asians, Jews, right? All that stuff. So it's everybody in these communities that are being targeted, not necessarily by the United States government, but some politicians. And some of these politicians, in my opinion, this, like I said, I'm just giving, I'm opinionizing, giving my opinion from my personal experience in the hood, right? They were choosing profit over the lives of American citizens. Go all the way back to the Ronald Reagan era, and find out how many companies he closed across the United States of America. to impoverish these communities. And this is around the time when gangs started, surfacing all over the United States of America. But even though gangs go back to the 70s and 60s, and you know, but they weren't as violent as compared to the late 1980s and the 1990s and the 2000, and I guess from the late 1980s up to today, it wasn't as violent. So the gaslighting is when you even see politicians, right, police officers, anybody who tries to minimize the situation, or they try to reverse the table, right, and they try to make it the victim's fault. It's their fault for this drug, for their drug addictions. So in my workers' compensation claim, um, I was just being gaslit. I was being interrogated. I'm not lying to you guys. I know my rights. I know I have due process rights. Anybody who accuses me of a crime has right obligation to contact local police station, the local police department, to report the crime, right? None of these doctors ever did. But they accused me in his examination rooms of committing insurance fraud. So that was, and then they're minimizing my injuries, the gaslighting. Imagine that, going through a life emergency, and I still feel like I'm going through a life emergency because I haven't received any medical treatment for these work accidents, even though I can show I've been to the Baptist St. Anthony Emergency Department here in Amarillo, and at the Northwest Texas Hospital Emergency Department here in Amarillo, Texas, since 2018. But the gaslighting comes in with, like I said, being accused of a criminal, right? That I'm lying, I'm trying to get money from the insurance carrier, having, being forced to go back to work with no work restrictions. These doctors telling me I didn't have any injuries. I'm telling them, look, man, I feel like when I eat now. So this is like the first, that night when I went home, it was hard for me. I'm glad I didn't choke and die when I was swallowing food. Imagine being crushed with tons of an excavator bucket. It wasn't slammed on me. It was lowered on top of me. Probably worse. I don't know. But man, I was telling this doctor on my follow-up on June 20th, 2018, it's hard for me to swallow. Drinking water. I said, I'm choking drinking water. I said, I don't know what's going on. My vision's blurred. I got a pounding headache. I said, when I drive, I keep to the left. No work restrictions, nothing, right? She telling me I was lying, that I was just hitting the head. She didn't want to look at the freaking bruising on my back, the bruising on my left side of my body. None of that. Swelling in my neck, in my back, my right arm, my knees. They never conducted a full body examination that first day when I was crushed. But that's what it's like being gaslit. And I think this is, important for other Americans and people in the world to understand, and to hear people's personal experiences when, when you're hearing right now, I don't know if other victims of being gaslit by powerful people make YouTube videos. If they went public, maybe they're dead, because these cats are trying to murder me. And I'll tell you why. Just with that work accident, right? The second and third work accident. Um, just imagine that. And I was spending anywhere from 1 to 6 hours in these examination rooms. And I was turned back to work with no work restrictions, no medical diagnoses, um, just craziness. And even the doctors at the emergency department, same thing. They were talking to me like I was unintelligent. They were talking to me. They were condescending when they were talking to me. Condescending is when they belittle you. I was telling them, hey, look, I heard something don't seem right. Everything seems surreal. And, so June 20th, after this nurse practitioner was arguing with me, I said, hey, just send me back to work. I'm going back to work. So I'm not gonna argue with you, defend myself, right? My reputation, who I am to you when you weren't there. How are you gonna tell me what happened at the work accident? Who else is telling you? So I began to question her. Remember, I'm in a daze and everything looks surreal. I'm going to die, right? Heart beating crazy. It's 2 days later, the pulse in my throat just boom, boom, pounding, right? I'm panicking. And then I'm being interrogated. I'm being gaslit. It's psychological manipulation. When they saw that I was crushed, they knew what they were doing. And all these doctors, this is a conspiracy. Now, I don't care what anybody, if a person disagrees with me, cool, disagree, but do me a favor, don't call me crazy because this is real. Okay, this is all real, and I ain't doing anything wrong. I'm just one of the victims here in Texas, an injured worker going public, trying to get help from the public because I'm shut down, you guys. I'm shut down from every area imaginable here in the United States of America. So I switched clinics, and you know, Texas Mutual Insurance Company, they're putting pressure on the medical doctor at this new clinic at the Concentra. The first clinic I was working, or when I, getting supposedly treated, where I was being gaslit, right? That's psychological manipulation. This lady made me feel and start thinking to doubt myself. But it's weird because my ex-girlfriend, she didn't want to help. She didn't want to hear my story. Nothing. It was like she was gaslighting me too. Asking for help. I was like, I need help. Something don't seem right. I was just crushed, and you're acting like this is an everyday thing that you hear stories about people at work their whole body being crushed with an excavator bucket. 3 hours, it takes the employer 3 hours to take them to an urgent healthcare clinic. My ex-girlfriend just wasn't helping at all. But then again, I had brain injuries that no one told me about. Because June 20th, after I left that clinic, I called the general superintendent and told him, hey, I ain't coming back to work. He said, I have a headache. I'm veering to the left when I drive. I feel dizzy. I feel nauseous. Everything looks surreal. He's like, I take the day off, take the rest of the week off. And I think this was like on a Thursday anyways. So I go home, and the same clinic calls me and says, hey, we need you to go to the emergency department. So I didn't even know where these hospitals were. And this is running out. Both hospitals here in Amarillo, Texas are right next to each other, literally right next to each other. There's probably like a 500 or 1,000 distance between them. They share the same parking lots. I mean, it's just crazy. So that's why it's easy for, for me to say, hey, this is a conspiracy, right? Well, yeah, look at these damn hospitals. They're right next door to each other. You're going to try to tell me these directors aren't talking to each other about what happened to me? Because now, whenever investigators investigate this, these directors of these hospitals, they're going to be, man, deep trouble. They also, in conspiracy to commit violent crimes against me. I mean, man, we're denied medical treatment and get lit. Now you're psychologically manipulating me. The whole point is to make me doubt myself, to make me seem that I'm the crazy one. Yeah, I went crazy. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. I probably crazy today. But look I kept pushing forward, asking for help. I was threatened by the internal affairs sergeant here at the Amarillo Police Department. His name is the Officer Lane. And I went home that day. I drove back home. Man, I almost wrecked on the highway going back to Denver. Once I got into Colorado, I almost wrecked on the highway because I was dizzy, right? All this crazy brain body trauma no one told me about. But anyways, going back to June 20, 2018, the emergency department did its CAT scans. And guess what the diagnosis was? A post-traumatic headache. So that's, I'm trying to give you examples. And keep in mind, I'm relearning how to think and talk again outside of therapy, outside of medical treatment. because of these brain injuries and head injuries, scalp injuries, neck injuries. I mean, my whole body's screwed, But that's what she told me I had. That's what that medical doctor at that emergency department told me. I got the document. I had a post-traumatic headache. So the clinic said I had symptoms of a concussion, right? 2 days after I was crushed. Now, the last 4.5 years, see, it's hard for me because I these people cause so much stress in my life. It took 3 years here in Texas, here in Amarillo, Texas. It took 3 years to finally to get doctors to do the right thing, to get the psychiatrist to diagnose me with post-traumatic stress disorder. 3 years, you guys. Imagine that. I didn't know I was going through this stuff until maybe about 2 years ago, because they're, these. Okay, so let me just back up to Texas Mutual Insurance Company. The day before I get assaulted by this medical doctor, they're that week from August 2nd, 2018. Because I have the documents from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, from the Texas Office of the Injured Employee Council. And they're putting pressure on the medical doctor. The Texas Mutual Insurance Company was. They were literally threatening this medical doctor, telling him pursuant to these Texas laws right here. Now, let me back up and give you a little history about Texas Mutual Insurance Company. I got bad luck. God damn, I have bad luck. Or god dang, sorry for cussing. I have bad luck. I move into a city it's a cult city. I'm not boo crapping you guys. And the bad luck is the employer, their insurance carrier, is the Texas Mutual Insurance Company. Now, back in 1993, prior to 1993, I guess Texas, the workers were going through, the employers were getting sued by injured workers, right? And it was costing a lot of money. So Texas legislature in 1993 came up with this bright idea, right? And I think this is some kind of a Ponzi scheme when they created the Texas Mutual Insurance Company. The Texas legislation did, and it was governed, regulated by the Texas legislation up until like 2013. Around the time Governor Abbott gets in office, right, as the governor here. So I got bad luck because when you look at the policyholders, these are politicians, ex-politicians, corporate companies here in Texas. And that's why, like I said, I was told by a couple of attorneys. I was told by the director, he's an attorney of the Texas Office of the Injured Employee Council. He told me this just last year after I had my hearing Texas Medical Board. And I'll talk about that, how they gaslit me there. And they recorded, because remember, this is going back into, or not last year, but 2021 is when I had the hearing with the Texas Medical Board. 2021 is when I talked to the director of the Texas Office of the Injured Employee Council 2 years ago. So the bad luck is the insurance company is Texas Mutual Insurance Company, right? Supposedly, Texas legislation got rid of it created this company and then cut ties with it, supposedly, by theory, right? But I'm telling you right now, practical application, no, they're using this insurance carrier. That's why Texas Mutual Insurance Company covers 49% of employees here in Texas. Like I said, this is a Ponzi scheme. I'm not lying. Look up Texas Mutual Insurance Company and see how much money they're giving back to the employers. So every employer that's subscribed to Texas Mutual Insurance Company, like I think last year, over $200 million were given to different companies because Texas Mutual Insurance Company rewards employers for having low work accident reports, right? For having freaking low work accidents. Imagine that. That's why these cats over here. So another aspect of my worker compensation claim, I even try to get attorneys. I try to hire an attorney, the law firms. I try to acquire them with my own money, right? And I'm getting shut down even by whistleblower law firms. That's how powerful these people are here in Amarillo, Texas. No civil rights attorney will represent me. No whistleblower. I'm a whistleblower. I'm talking about I got serious allegations based on these documents these people gave me in my personal experience and witness of another coworker who's working with a broken foot a year after the work accident. So no civil rights attorney will represent me, no workers' compensation attorney in Texas, and these attorneys in and out of Texas won't represent me. No whistleblower attorney law firm will represent me. Personal injury law firms for the assault, right? All that. I mean, nothing. I'm literally blackballed. I'm ostracized from society. So Texas Mutual Insurance Company is putting pressure the week before I get assaulted on this medical doctor who happens to be, okay, so he has an Arabic name, so I'm thinking he's probably a, Islamic practitioner, right? His religion's probably Islam, so they're probably getting discriminated. That medical doctor and nurse practitioners at the Concentric Clinic here in Amarillo, Texas, there's only one here. They're probably getting discriminated too. I wonder if he's even a doctor anymore. But anyways, Texas Mutual Insurance Company kept threatening them. You got to release him back to work. On him released back to work. The way they worded it, right? Implying if you don't, you're breaking the law. Well, where would Texas Mutual Insurance Company get this? Well, if you look at the Dallas News article about Texas Mutual Insurance Company, Texas Mutual Insurance Company up into, this article came out in 2015 by the Dallas Journal or the Dallas Tribunal or the Texas Tribunal, I think. But look it up. If you think I'm lying, I'm not lying at all. Look up how Texas Mutual Insurance Company gives back to the employers $1 million when the employer don't report work accidents, right? So they're being encouraged by Texas government to crap on American workers. And what about the legal immigrants working all over here in Texas? You guys don't know about that. You don't see these news agencies reporting about these illegal immigrants, right? All around us here in Texas. But they're encouraged to not report work accidents. It's about money. So once again, they're choosing money, right? Self-profit. They're choosing profit over the lives of American citizens here in Texas. So in that report, I think it's the Texas Tribunal. I'm just going off my memory, but I think it's the Texas Tribunal news journalists. I don't even think they're a news agency. I try to contact them. I mean, I reached, like I said, everything you can imagine that you would report this to news agencies. Like I said, I'm cut off. These cats, this is real. So the week before I get assaulted, they're putting pressure on this doctor, right? I got the freaking Texas Mutual Insurance Company. I don't know who it is, right? It's not fraudulent, but it's the Texas Mutual Insurance Company is what it says, and they're telling this doctor that they want me released from work. And the doctor on the 9th of August, 2018, he scribbles in on that fax paper that I have. And he tells them, I'm not releasing him back to work. Now, I didn't know I was off of work, okay? Because they took me off of work. I had to go back to work. The same day I got crushed, and the next day, and the next day. And then that, my follow-up, and that nurse was telling me, or that nurse practitioner, that doctor was telling me I was lying, interrogating me, saying I was committing insurance fraud, asking me what my religion was, who am I? And I said, hey, I'm Native, and she's Mexican American. I'm like, look, I'm Mexican too, but I'm Native Mexican American. I'm Pasquale Yaki and I'm a Jew. I'm Germanic, right? Man, I didn't know she was getting information about me to just discriminate against me. Figure, like I said, interrogating me. But I had to go back to work, and June 20th was the last day at work. I refused to go back to work. Everything just seemed off, especially after the emergency department told me I just had a post-traumatic headache. To me, that's gaslighting. When a doctor minimizes injuries, especially to your brain, because now I found out just last year in his medical report, and you know, I have contusions in my brain. Imagine that. No one's even told me about this stuff. Texas Mutual Insurance Company is the one that gave me these documents, and I have contusion to my scalp. So let me tell you, the viewer, pay attention to, especially if you're working here in Texas, pay attention to these diagnoses that the insurance carrier sends to you, the doctors, okay, all that stuff. Write this stuff down. I couldn't write this stuff down, even though I tried to. Imagine having traumatic brain injury, okay, and it's no one told you about it, and you're being gaslit, you're being psychologically manipulated. I told you I went crazy, I went insane. I'll get to that here soon too. So pay attention. And this is also, I'm using this to help educate other workers here in the United States of America. Pay attention to my story. It's going to be long, but it's going to hopefully educate you and to prevent you from dying at work. You can't trust nobody at work. Okay, everybody should know that right now. Everybody should just know that by how society is operating today, right? I got to get mine before you get yours attitude, right? That's the mentality out. People are getting wasted left and right, no matter who you are, except for the super extremely rich, right? But so he said no, he wasn't releasing me from work. Illegal right there. I never got compensated for any of that. So this is the whole importance. So these younger generations that probably, all on TikTok, and these younger cats are trying to clown me, right? And even people my age and maybe a little older too. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm gonna tell you the significance and importance of having your employer having insurance to cover their workers. I just got crushed at work. So what that did was it barred me from hiring a personal injury attorney to sue that company. Remember, that company was paying out of the pocket. For what I do know can prove, for the first 2 weeks, my work accident, maybe my third, up into the third week, the insurance carrier or the company was paying out of their pocket because they never filed a workers' comp. They didn't file a workers' compensation claim. I had to file the workers' compensation claim. I filed it with Texas Mutual Insurance Company back in July. Imagine that. So the employer is paying out of their pocket, committing crime. That's insurance fraud. And Texas Mutual Insurance Company knows about it and covered it up. The Texas Department of Workers' Compensation, they know about it and they covered it up. So write down everything from your work accident, okay? What people are saying. You're going to gaslight you, try to make you seem, and this psychological manipulation, it doesn't have to come verbally. It comes financially, emotionally. It happens behaviorally. Their behavior, their body language, their demeanor can gaslight you to make you think you're doing the wrong thing by filing a workers' compensation claim. I ain't lying. You guys know what I'm talking about. But so that was August 9th. Texas Mutual Insurance Company that week, a couple of times, putting pressure on his doctors, medical doctors, like, nope, I'm not releasing him from work. So I already had his appointment set up with his doctor, and then I just found out this medical doctor is a gynecologist. Imagine that. A medical doctor, not even an internal medicine doctor. The gynecologist, they set me an appointment with a gynecologist at this clinic. That's insurance fraud, right? But it's gaslighting too. So August 10th comes. Now, originally so remember, I have a brain injury, multiple brain injuries, head injuries, body trauma, should be dead. These cats, I know it. And they know that I know that they know they're waiting for me to die. Because they're probably giving medical predictions, right? Hey, maybe he's just going through shock. That shock, it lasted for, all the way up until last year, or actually 2021. I'll get to that story. That shock, yeah. But remember, this wasn't a normal generalized concussion. This was a crush concussion. A crush concussion is the worst one to have. Usually there's a low percentage that people recover from it. So on one hand, I know God is with me, and then on the other hand, like, man, God's real, because how to survive this long? Because not only was I physically attacked, but I was psychologically attacked, emotionally attacked, discriminated, right? Beat down. This doctor. So June, August 10th comes. So remember, now he's there illegally, okay? So the Texas Department of Compensation, I filed a complaint with the fraud unit. These cats, I got their letter too. And that letter, it seems like they're mocking me because this is what happened. So this doctor comes in, tells me what's going on. I tell him, he tells me, shut the fuck up. I just pause. I'm sitting down, right? I'm just confused. Like, hold on, this doctor just cussed at me. What's this about? Then a few seconds went by. Then he asked me the same question. What are your symptoms? I told him the same thing. This fool starts yelling at me. Shut the F up. For cussing. But this video is made for adults anyways, not for children. But I know the new policy for YouTube, not to cuss. I just caught myself cussing. But he said, F you. F you if you think you're going to get money from this insurance carrier. F you, you're going back to work. Imagine that. And prior to that, right, when he came in, he asked me what's going on. And I tell him, look, I'm tired of being discriminated. So this cat's Mexican American. So I'm trying to give him like, hey, this is a medical doctor. Look, he needs to know what these cats are doing to me, right? Hell no, this fool's a sellout. That's how these conservative Mexican Americans are here in Texas. They're sellouts. So he ends up assaulting me because he was screaming at me, making all these allegations, right? These accusations, and they're baseless. So I told him, hey, be a man now. You want to say all this stuff to me? Give a statement. Everything you just told me, verbatimly write it down, sign it, and I'm going to be on my way. Right? This guy was like, F you, I'm not signing nothing. You're going to work. So I tell him, I'm going to record you with my phone for the remainder of this visit. Now, here in Texas, the law protects me in this incident, okay? Because they have the one, what's it called? The Texas one consent rule, okay? This is the law. One consent rule is this. This is the one consent law. Me and you could be talking right now anywhere here in Texas. And if you don't tell me you're going to record our conversation or interaction, and I say something and I do something and I commit a crime, guess what? That's the one consent law here. It only takes one person to consent. It could be the person that's recording, or it could be either one of the two people, or both of them can agree to be recorded. So I didn't break the law. I know my rights. Next to know, I'm went up. So I put my phone out. I hit record, right? And that's all I remember. How I woke up was somebody was trying to pull my phone from my hand. So I had a death grip. So I died. Because when you go unconscious, your body goes limp. Ask any medical doctor. Ask anybody in the military. When you're knocked out unconscious, your whole body goes limp. If you're still alive, your body is limp. Okay? Just like when I got crushed, I didn't crawl 60, 70 feet away from where I got crushed at. I didn't need bruises on my knees, on my legs, any of that, right? No swelling from, I probably, I have knee swelling, but not scrapes and bumps and everything like a person like you would expect. Right on a construction site, you just got crushed and you're conscious and you're crawling, right? There ain't no out burns, nothing, right? No knee burns, nothing. These, when they crushed me, they dragged me and put me face down in that puddle of water to make sure I was dead. Because last time I checked, when you're unconscious, your lungs are still breathing. I didn't wake up choking on the water at all. But I know in one of these urinalysis samples documents I have, it says that I had contracted some kind of, what was it called? Some kind of disease or some kind of, it was a disease from contaminated water. So imagine that. These cats don't think I have this document. I have a document. They never told me about that. So look, that's how much bad luck I have. Third work accident, that couldn't be enough. Denied medical treatment, that couldn't be enough. Dragged and put, put face down in at least 3.5 inches of water. That wasn't enough. I had to freaking, contract. Because remember, I'm face down, knows all that stuff, and this is a construction site, so who knows what this urine analysis picked up, right? But it was some kind of illness from the contaminated water. Now, I didn't wake up choking, but everything was wet. My glasses were still on. I had Oakley glasses. Those are the good glasses, and they didn't break or anything, right? And freaking, they're all wet, water running down, and I lift my face up. But I have that urine analysis that these cats never told me about. I had contracted some kind of bacteria from this contaminated water. See, everything supports my story that these cats gave me, but I'm ostracized at the same time. And it drives me crazy every day still. Like, damn, I can't do nothing, right? Especially functioning in life. I just recently got Social Security disability, but I'm being gaslit by the medical doctor now, It's like he don't want to. I told him what happened, just my last appointment last week. You want to ask questions? You want to play me like a fool? Because last month he told me he wouldn't prescribe me any opioids because I have a drug addiction. Now, somewhere along the way here in Texas, and I think it was at this mental health hospitals, I told them I tried cocaine, acid, mushrooms, methamphetamines, right? Freaking, and I think that's it. Oh, even Huff spray paints. But this was as a kid. I didn't form an addiction, just like drinking alcohol. I didn't form an addiction from alcohol. So he was telling me based on my record. So this is one of the things that these doctors do too, and they gaslight you guys. They show, because remember, who are you going to believe? Who are you going to believe right now? If a medical doctor is right here in front of me, I'll make these allegations against him. All right, I'm going to tell you who you're going to believe. You're going to believe that medical doctor. Because that's how society presents these medical doctors, all health professionals, like they're risking their life for their patients. Now, back in the day, I could tell you that was more likely in Denver, Colorado. Can't say for the rest of the state. I never been abused. I never been gaslit by doctors until this work accident. Even the same doctors that treated me the year before my work accident, before I worked for this company, they didn't gaslight me. These cats made freaking recommendations for specialists and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But so you're gonna believe the medical doctor if you're watching the video now. It's past an hour. Still watching this video. You're probably thinking that this dude's crazy, but I'm telling you, I'm not crazy. Maybe you might want to look at yourself and look in the mirror and ask yourself, man, is it true that I've been correctly psychologically manipulated all my life without me knowing? Especially when you go to these religious institutions, right? You've been gaslit your whole life. You've been psychologically conditioned against your consent to believe a medical doctor no matter what, even a politician, police officer, and a school teacher, right? All this stuff against, to discriminate, inadvertently discriminate against an average American citizen. So it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, Asian, Native American, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, right? Latin, you're already preconditioned against your consent. And this is probably the first time you're hearing someone talk like this and say things like this. I'm not exaggerating anything. I'm not gaslighting you. I'm just putting the truth out there from personal experiences, that you've been preconditioned to discriminate or be biased against a person that has reputation, right? Movie star, rap star, rock star, right? All these people that we in Hollywood, right? Watching all these networks, promoting all these people that are, right? They don't commit crimes, right? Why would you anyways? You got millions of dollars. And a lot of them aren't, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to upset any actor or actresses out there, any rappers or anybody, right? But I think majority of them are bad. Go look at recent history, and maybe I have it backwards. Maybe it's the majority. No, it's right. Majority of them are bad because these actresses that were saying that these Hollywood producers were raping them and stuff. Yeah, that's majority of the people that are committing these crimes. But that's how we're conditioned. We're gaslighted. We're gaslit by our own society. News agencies primarily, any source of information back in the day, because these new kids have access to the internet and everything. But I know somebody came along and said, hey, the internet information like Google search, it's inaccurate, it's unreliable, listen to me. Those are the people from the coast that have this power of deception to mislead the younger generations. And us back in the day, remember, we didn't have the internet. We had the news and stuff, and you already know the news has changed drastically for the worse. And that's how they program you. I remember conspiracists saying stuff like I'm saying, hey, 20, 30 years ago. I was like, these cats are crazy, right? And then what do you expect? You see them at the bus stop huffing paint, running around all crazy, right? Saying conspiracy things. Then now fast forward to now, I'm like, damn, these cats must have been, they were telling the truth. And they didn't, and they were so traumatized, because when you're psychologically manipulated, your own mind is being used against you. Imagine these cats, these professionals, like in my case, they will use your own mind, your own emotions, and your own feelings against you, with the intent that you by manipulating your mind, your feelings, and your emotions to manipulate your behavior to commit suicide. I almost committed suicide, dog. I'm telling you, after all this stuff happened, and I became homeless, lost everything, right? Nobody wanted to help me. What do you do? The cops would be like, well, I just got retaliation, got a gun and shot these people. What? For what? What's that going to accomplish? You're going to try to kill them, and you're possibly going to get killed in the, in the process, and they will go unhurt, and then they go back to living their life. They're the heroes, right? The crazy person. They get away with all the crimes they committed. You get killed, or let's say, God forbid, you take their life, one of them at least, and now you're going to go spend the rest of your life in prison. That don't make no sense. Why would I get a gun and try to retaliate? Even though I thought about it, I ain't gonna lie. I went through mixed emotions while I was homeless. I'm telling you, I went insane. Look, I'm not in denial, dog. Look, I went insane. Anybody that has a rational mind, anybody who's a critical thinker, this will cause you to go insane. When you're ostracized here in the United States of America, keep in mind, I've been saying this stuff on TikTok. And if you follow the news, look at all the TikTok, the news reports on TikTok influencers all the time. What, you don't think news agencies didn't see my videos. Guaranteed, man, I was getting like already had like freaking almost 1 million views on a lot of my videos, right? 10,000 likes. Do you see what I'm saying? That's 10,000 people. But so look, I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna sound like a conspiracy, but this is my just give me respect. You know, I'm respect you, respect me. This is my opinion. Governor Abbott just recently, right, they're pushing law. I don't know if they passed the law yet, but they're pushing law to ban government officials from accessing social media platforms with government phones, saying it's a national security risk. Look at that's how these cats operate. They lie to the public. I'm gonna tell you right now, in my TikTok account, I was getting attention, all right, and these who knows. So hopefully the Department of Justice or the FBI, whoever, right, is watching this, and hopefully that they can go and get these phones, especially here in Texas, and who knows where else here in the United States of America. But it's government officials, so who knows which government officials got and saw my video on TikTok. Because I got banned from TikTok. I had these cats come on there making racist comments, and then they weren't getting, I reported them. They still have their account, and then I post stuff like this YouTube video. I took a screenshot, right, and it showed a neo-Nazi participant protester with the Proud Boys in New York a couple of weeks ago when they were when they were protesting against the LGBT community reading at the public library, right? Grooming little kids is what they're accusing them of, right? And that's right too, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna tell me the LGBT community is going there in public libraries, right? These cats, the Proud Boys and these neo-Nazis, obviously never been to a public library, not once in their life, because every time I go into a public library, these freaking librarians are looking out because they know there's a library. They know there's women in the library. They know there's men in the library, and they're always watching. They're probably going to get past, probably in their freaking job description anyways. Oh, as a librarian, you also got to watch the customers here, keep ensure there's public safety here, right? Because once again, public libraries are a sacred place. So you're going to tell me the grooming over there? Come on now, miss me with all that, right? But that video got banned. I made a video on Marjorie Taylor Greene when she repeated what Donald Trump said. It's the black and brown communities. It's them with the gangs causing their demise, basically, right? So I just gave her a rebuttal. That video got banned. So my whole account got banned on TikTok, even though I sent an email to TikTok saying, "Why are you banning me for?" These cats are making racist videos. I gave them screenshots of the statements these racists made to me videos, and they haven't replied, but they canceled me. So who knows what kind of attention I'm getting on or was getting on TikTok. So I had to switch over to YouTube, right? On TikTok, it was called Talking Box. It's spelled the same way, just minus the show, right? It's called Talking Box. And the whole purpose was to get my story out there and to help me rethink and to re-talk. I mean, I probably had strokes already because of the post-traumatic stress, right? But so that's when I got assaulted, and then I got bad luck, dog. When you think it couldn't get worse, it got worse, But that's what gaslighting is like. It's when these professionals do it, okay? And keep in mind, a lot of them have they have American psychology college education and degrees. I know that with the fact for medical doctors and for criminal justice, like police, attorneys, police officers, judges, politicians, all that stuff. You guys, they have American psychology education, right? Even if it's just introduction, American psychology. That's what I had. I never got my degree, but I went to college for a while back in the day. So you see that people can gaslight you, even in personal relationships, right? People don't talk to you, your wife or husband or girlfriend or boyfriend, you're in denial about something, It comes in different, forms and fashions. And this is my personal experience. And be careful at work, be mindful. I mean, the people that you least suspect to harm you are the ones that will harm you. I ain't lying. I was homeless here in Amarillo, Texas, and in Denver, Colorado after all this stuff, dude. I'm walking like Frankenstein, all crippled, trying to get help, right? I'm insane now. I went crazy. I ain't gonna lie. I wanted to freaking murder these people, right? And the actuality was it wasn't possible. I wasn't going to take no one's life. Once again, for what? They're going to get away. I'll be the villain over here. I'm already the villain, so they ain't going to accomplish nothing, right? Two, I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to jump off so many highway bridges in Denver, downtown Denver, when I was homeless. I wanted to jump down in front of the freaking, the RTD, the damn public transportation bus, even the light rail. Tempted when your body wants to just leap in front of it. But that's the insanity that was given to me for asking for help. And that was the insanity given to me at work, doing nothing wrong. These cats didn't like that I was inexperienced. I know how to talk. I know how to communicate. I was talking to, crews out there, even assist these crews, foremans that have 20, 30 years plus experience out there, right? They were hating on me big time, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't stepping on their toes or nothing, right? Hey, sorry, look, I'm trying like you guys. I'm hungry. I'm trying to work. I'm doing everything legitimate. Difference is, I got your back. You guys didn't have my back, right? That was the only difference. Plus, they didn't like me because I'm Native Mexican. I'm Pascual-Yaqui, and I'm a Jew. Not like George Santos over there crying, lying to the public again. And that's what some of these Republican politicians do. Like the majority of them, they lie to public, right? Because they're masters at deception. They know how to psychologically manipulate you. And that's exactly what George Santos did over there in New York, telling people that he's a Jew, right? All of a sudden, this guy can associate with New Yorkers, 9/11 tragedy, right? Blessed be those families, right? That's how these people are. They're masters at psychologically manipulating mass population. And that's coming from the Republican Party. I'm an ex-Republican voter. So anybody wants to try to say, well, I'm a Democrat, come from Colorado. I was voting over there as Republican. So I don't know what you're talking about. So you're going to have to miss me with that jacket. And that's what they do. They try to villainize. They try to put jackets on you. They try to give you a whole makeover, right? They tell you who you are and all this different stuff. Then you find out it's all them doing it. But that's even a form of gaslighting too. George Santos even gaslit. You could say he gaslit over there in New York by lying, victimizing people. How are they victims? Because this is one of our fundamental rights, the freedom to vote for who be in office. And when you get a psychological manipulator, so on TikTok, I was talking about, what's really happening is a psychological battle or psychological war. It has to do with the Bible and the end times, right? And at the end times, it's going to be a psychological war. That's why when people try to tell me about Jesus Christ, I say, look, I study the Bible in Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew, and what you're telling me is wrong. Can you show me in the Greek, right? If I can show you. And I got to do, if you got the Strong's Concordance or any Bible app, type in the mind and go to the New Testament. And what I discovered, in the New Testament, now I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a scholar, none of that stuff, right? But from what I've seen compared to other texts, this is some kind of a form, it's the form of Kabbalah. There's like Kabbalistic concepts being used in the New Testament. But the New Testament has a lot of discrepancies in it too. When you compare the Textus Receptus manuscript to the older manuscripts, and you discover that the Texas Receptus manuscript is not reliable. And then I'm trying to remember the other two compared with, like for example, in Mark chapter 1, verse 2, I believe, or verse 1 or 2 or 3, it says the name Jesus Christ in your Bible, right? But in that Greek text that goes back, 1700 years ago, all the way up to like the 4th century, doesn't have Jesus Christ's name in there. So there's a lot of discrepancies in the Greek New Testament, but also discovered there's Kabbalistic concepts too. And look up the mind. Go get your phone app, concordance, whatever you have, and look up the mind and read the verses in the context of the New Testament. And then you'll see where I'm actually getting the psychological war, right? For instance, I'll point out, okay, so the background of the New Testament, right? These are all Jewish believers. These are all rabbis, Pharisaic rabbis. Jesus Christ was a Pharisee. That's how the New Testament presents him. His disciples, Pharisaic students, okay? Pharisees. They weren't Sadducees, and they were part of the Essene community. Now, go to YouTube, right here on YouTube, search and look, Rabbi Yehezkel Itaki from the Machor Sulam Yaakov Jewish and non-Jewish outreach organization, and you see his videos and everything. Look at his videos where he talks about the Jewish background in the New Testament, how even Paul used concepts that are connected to the Essene community, right, in the Sea Scrolls. But look at those verses and the context they're in. The Greek mind, right? Now, those people had Greek minds. There were a lot of Hellenist Jewish people in Rome, all over that ancient world, that more likely translated from the Hebrew New Testament that was written down probably originally in Hebrew and Aramaic into Greek after the, Jewish Roman War in 70 AD. Because everything that was Hebrew and Aramaic was outlawed. It was illegal. If you got caught with the Hebrew writings, you were executed on the spot. The ancient Romans got down like that, right? But what does that mean to us today? I mean, we're not Greeks, right? We're not even barbarians, And a barbarian or barbaric person is really saying to Greek, they're uncivilized. That's it. So we're everywhere today in the world, majority, slim percentage of people or countries, right, aren't civilized. Majority of us are civilized. So how we relate to the Greek mind, and but that's literally what it's talking about. It seems like also the New Testament is presented in the future tense, because when you look at the English education, a lot of the root words we have come from the Latin and the Greek, ancient Latin and Greek words, and French, and but all those languages also came from the Greeks, and the Greeks, like their alphabet, actually came from the Phoenicians over there in the Middle East, a different dialect of Hebrew. And so if you look at the science of etymology, just go look at it and trace it all the way back. You'll see. Go on Google search, type in where did the ancient Greeks get the alphabet system? And it's time they got it from the Phoenicians. And there's a lot of stuff that's out there that you can research and educate yourself in. It's all facts. I read this, and this part about the ancient Greeks getting their alphabet from the Phoenicians, I read this like 10, 12 years ago in the book. So it's real. It's been there. And we got, the copyright of that book was probably like 1920 or 1930 anyways. And that's, going back 100 years ago, and people accepted it in academia as facts, So the Greek mind it seems like it's talking about people today that have, I want to say not the English language, but the academic or academia, the secular education is what the New Testament is talking about and everything. But so there's different ways that people get gaslit, and people have been conditioned to be biased, right? And people will say, "Oh, not me." Like, damn right, you too, because I bet you can be biased towards an ugly person and a fine person, a beautiful person, right? You wouldn't want to date an ugly person, but you date a beautiful person, right? And that's another thing too. A lot of us, we have, our personal standards are just illogical. They don't even make sense. But we've been conditioned back in the day by watching the TV networks and everything, right? And that's why everybody today thinks that they're Hollywood movie stars. Everyone thinks they're super rich. And it's just, just a front and everything. But that's, psychological manipulation. And psychological manipulation can come from anybody. And they're so intent that, the intention is to, one, use their influence, right? Like in my case, these doctors, so I'm making allegations now against police officers, judges, right? District attorney, district attorneys here in Amarillo, Texas, the Texas Department of Workers' Compensation, the Texas Office of the Injured Employee Council, the Texas Mutual Insurance Company, the Allen Butler Construction Inc., right? Republicans like Governor Greg Abbott, like the Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Look at that cat. Look at this is how I'm gonna prove everyone's being preconditioned, right? Psychologically manipulated to be biased against average Americans, to discriminate, right? To be biased against average Americans, and to like uplift the smaller percentage of Americans, like Ken Paxton. That dude's been on bond for like 7 years now. Yeah, the state attorney of Texas has been on bond 2 times now. It hasn't been brought to trial on the first you know, allegations. But remember, everyone's innocent before proven guilty in this case. You're gonna tell me everybody here in Texas is still voting for Governor Abbott, right? That has Ken Paxton sitting as the Texas Attorney General on bond. These are federal crimes, and he hasn't been brought into the courtroom. That's why I'm trying to inform the public too. Like, look, people have been preconditioned against their consent inadvertently. People don't know that they've been conditioned to be biased. And that's why Ken Paxton is still in office. Governor Abbott, you know, Beto O'Rourke, check this out. Look at this is what this is the main reason. This is what these Texas Republicans voted for Greg Abbott and voted against Beto O'Rourke. But I think there's voter fraud here in Texas. But anyways, Beto O'Rourke had mentioned that he was going to make it illegal, or to legalize gun purchasing at the age 21 years old. And I think he mentioned getting rid of assault rifles, right? Nobody needs an assault rifle, dog. Sorry. If you really think in your mind that you're going to go against government because of our Second Amendment, right? You have the right to bear arms in case the government becomes a tyranny. But you're looking at it wrong. The forefathers weren't just talking about the United States government as a collective, okay? They were also talking about towns and cities, okay, in the United States and states. When that government becomes a tyrannical government, right? Like right now, all this stuff, all the evidence I have, if people start listening to me, this is how you would fulfill the Second Amendment the forefathers gave us the right to. You have the right to bear arms when your government becomes a tyranny, when they begin to violently oppress you and oppress you, when they begin to violently attack you and harm you and try to murder you. That's what they did to me. They tried to murder me. That doctor that assaulted me, he knew I had brain injuries because I already had the CAT scan that this doctor lied to me about the emergency department. I got the medical document, right, that I have a post-traumatic headache. But now I have documents that says I have brain contusions and scalp contusions and brain strains. Do you see what I'm going through? That's probably why my left side of my mouth droops, because I probably already had strokes, heart attack. Because I can't go to these hospitals. I mean, I can, but when I go there, last time I went there of last year, I was escorted out because the nurse was asking me about the pain. And I told her it's been going on for, 3.5 years, because during that time, it was 3.5 years. Now it's 4.5 years, because last year or 4 years. And she started screaming at me. People that were there, if they remember, you know, they remember me. I was the one being screamed at by this nurse, and she was just there to check me in. See, when I filed these Texas workers' compensation claims, I became a target. I'm still a target. Denied medical treatment. Why? Because when they find out I'm getting medical treatment or trying to pursue it, right? These powerful people, I'm not lying to you guys. They get a hold of these doctors and they tell them, and and these are directors, not only medical doctors, but directors of hospitals and clinics and everything. Once they find out I'm trying to get medical treatment, they come and shut it down with the intent to deny me medical treatment, because the evidence that I'm talking about is also in my body. Like that I saw from that medical doctor, that was attempted murder and an armed robbery, because he took my cell phone. His whole intention was to take my cell phone, and that's how he committed attempted robbery, because he knew I had brain injuries. He knew I had body trauma throughout my body. But when you're gaslit, like I said, people, general society, are already preconditioned by these religious institutions they go to, by watching the TV, going on these social, on some of these social platforms, where people are just lying to them and engaging in conspiracy and distributing misinformation and disinformation. A lot of people can't distinguish between misinformation and disinformation. And that's why, like Ken Paxton, he's this guy 7 years. I think this is the 8th year now or 9th year. This guy is still the Texas Attorney General, right? And it seems like people don't even know what the role of Attorney General or Attorney General is in each state. This is the highest attorney in the state, in each state, you guys. And they govern, they're in charge of prosecuting people, right? So attorney general's role is to, they're the judicial system. They're in charge of it. They're the ones that enforce the law, because everybody knows that has higher education, when a government begins to become corrupt, and like Ken Paxton, what he's doing over there, like what he's doing right here in Texas, right? He's corrupt. Dude's a criminal, but he's the highest prosecutor in the state of Texas. He's the one in charge of the law. He's a powerful person. They're committing crimes, okay? And everybody with higher education knows when a person like that commit crime, goodbye to society. And that's why Texas is so jacked up here. I'm not lying. You ask anybody that's telling the truth. But like I said, I'm an outsider, so these cats live in these conditions, so they probably don't really know, because this is what they're used to, or they know about it, and it's so common. They're like, this is the way it's been. But I'm against that. Not against the people that think that way, but I'm against that mentality. Like, hold on, this is wrong. You're going to tell me you're living here paying taxes, right, to one of the top 10 economies in the world, while these cats are being discriminated towards women and men and everybody that's basically poor, making you work in these unsafe work sites. You get criminalized, right? There ain't no due process. You get criminalized. You get victimized through violence when you file a workers' compensation claim. You get no medical treatment. And when you're homeless, right, your whole dreams, everything that you have about you for your future goes to waste. You're going to tell me you're living in this condition and this is a common thing? These cats are murdering, raping everybody around you, and there's nothing you can do about them because they're the law, like Ken Paxton or Governor Abbott, right? These Texas Department of Insurance, Texas Department of Workers' Compensation, all this stuff, you guys. People with higher education understand when there's a break in the judicial system. Bye-bye society, because the law is there, right? These attorneys are there to enforce the law no matter who you are. Okay, we're going into, you know, we're transitioning into a new era of the United States of America. And why I say new era, because it's the upper class, people that are rich. On their level, the multimillionaires, billionaires, they're not racist. They use that as a tool, a weapon. They weaponize us with, you know, with racism on our level, because we're, you know, we have lower education. So it's just a facade, a front, and they cause mass division so they can do their dirty work and make, their whole intention is to make as much money as they can for them and their family. And that's, so when that begins to happen, when there's government corruption, go look at these ancient freaking civilizations, you guys. We're uncivilized, they're civilized. We're still depending on their education today in 2023. But you'll see that when the government became corrupt, then that whole powerful country, and these are powerful countries back in the day, they collapsed. Germany, look at what Germany did, you know, the Nazis over there, what Hitler was doing, right? That's government corruption, victimizing Jews, right? Victimizing everybody that you know didn't fit the description of their ideology of the human being. That whole government collapsed, right? And that's why Germany is way behind. Japan, look at what you know, Japan, you know, China, you know, a lot of other countries, Russia. When you look at them, how is the United States the most powerful country today in there? You know, because even there's always been government corruption in the United States government, but you always had the balance of good Republicans, whether they're Democrat, Republic, and the bad ones, right? But it seems like today there's more bad Democrat and Republican politicians that's pushing policy to benefit corporate America, the multi-billionaires. That's why you have less work rights. And that's why none of these presidents, right? Donald Trump to Joe Biden, they're not pushing $20 an hour for minimum wage here across the United States of America. Go look at Geneva. Go look at what they did back 2 years ago. At the outbreak of 2020, or the outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020, these cats voted, right? The citizens of Geneva said, okay, you know what? In Switzerland over there, we're going to make minimum wage $25 an hour. So the equivalency to annually what American worker would get paid hourly and annually, $25 an hour. You would make $49 minimally over there in Geneva. You're going to tell me the United States of America can't do that? That'll solve all the homelessness. But we know what happens when people have more money, when people, right, become consumers. See, you have to understand there's lobbyists here in the United States of America, and the lobbyism back in the day, 100 years ago, they were racist, okay? They didn't want blacks. They didn't want let certain, you know, white European cultures of people advancing here in the United States of America, Native Americans, Mexican, Latino, all that stuff, okay? That was the lobbyism back then. Now, they began to get outnumbered, so of course, and the Italians are white now, Germans, Russians, and Polish, all, you know, people from Poland, Czechoslovakia, all that. You guys are all white now, right? Because they were getting outnumbered by everybody that were immigrants here. And then you had the natives, right? Like Mexicans, Latinos, right? Native Americans. We're all Native Americans anyways. I don't know, you know, we shouldn't identify as Mexican. You know, we're natives. This is our land. This is our ancestral land. You never heard of my tribe, Pasquayaki, because they fought for the last 500 years. We didn't get recognized, by the United States federal government until in the late 1980s. Because my ancestors were fighting still. They're getting wasted left and right, but they're still fighting against foreign governments, not just the United States government, Mexico, the Mexican government, Spanish government, French, Britain, all that stuff. But when you're preconditioned to lean and to be biased toward people. This is what happens. This is the society that we live in. And I truly believe that. And I can clearly see it. And I'm sure a lot of people can see it, that we're witnessing the collapse of the United States government. And that's, due to corruption. So, and that's why people are being gaslit, or people are discovering that they're victims of gaslight by professionals. A lot of powerful, rich, professionals out there that are gaslighting people. And my personal experience was, man, I started, by the time I met my wife 3 years ago, I told her, I said, sad thing is, look at these doctors and these cops, they're human beings just like me, and they have their careers, they have higher education, and they committed crimes against me. This is dehumanization now. This is probably, I could probably reach out to United Nations and make a complaint, since I'm not getting a response from the Department of Justice. But I told her, I was feeling bad for these people. I felt guilty, like it was my fault. On top, because I was being exploited because of the brain injuries, the head injuries, and the body trauma, right? All this trauma. Then I'm being gaslit. And then no one will believe me, right? And they turned the table around to make me seem like I was the crazy one, right? So I went insane. I was homeless, trying to work still, couldn't work. Just, my injuries were getting worse. I had 3 jobs when I went back to Denver. I was getting physical therapy in Denver too. I was getting acupuncture and stuff, and I freaked out. I was homeless, but I was working too. And my employer, God bless them, they know who they are. They would let me come to work at 7 in the morning, right? That was my shift. And so I was working in the office anyways. And I couldn't, type as great as I can and move my arms around and everything, because like I said, maybe my neck's broken, my back, the pain in my stomach right now, just, talking and sitting here. I still can't sit comfortably in a chair like I normally would, but, they would let me go to my appointments for physical therapy, let me clock out, and I had to walk. I'm homeless, right? But I don't look homeless because I'm all dressed up, right? And they probably knew I was homeless, but they respected me. They're human beings in Denver. So that's probably another thing people need to look at. Like in Denver, Colorado, over there, they could have crapped on me all day long. They didn't even have to hire me, right? But they hired me, and they probably knew I was homeless, but they knew I was embarrassed, homeless, and ashamed, right? So it gave me a chance. So I was working, and then when it came for me to go to these appointments, they let me clock out. I'll walk over there all the way to the hospital for my physical therapy, right? But eventually, the physical therapist doctor, as he giving the acupuncture, began to give me acupuncture in my head, back of my head. So he saw all the muscle spasms that I still have today. You know, they're trying to understand what happened. You know, is it true what I'm saying? Basically, right? I don't blame them, anyways. I mean, they're doctors. They deal with mental health patients, all that stuff. And in the past, I had severe depression. So, maybe it was tainted a little bit because I was mental health. I'm a mental health patient. So they kind of had to be cautious. They're believing me, but they knew I was mentally ill. So they're just probably doing the right thing. I don't know, but they gave me treatment compared to here in Amarillo, Texas, right? This is 4.5 years later, and I still am fighting for medical treatment. I can't, like I said, I get discriminated when I go to these emergency departments now. These nurses yell at me and they gaslight me. And last time I got escorted out by security guards. And these cats got guns and everything too. I didn't do anything wrong. This lady started screaming at me all crazy. And that's one of the signs of when you're a victim of a person gaslighting you. They turn the table around. They make it seem, like I said, they use their credentials, higher education, like in my case, and their influence to make you become the bad guy. That's my wife. We're getting divorced and everything too, me and my wife, but she'll tell you. I'll be joking with her, and maybe I'm telling the truth too, but telling her, hey, look, I'm the bad Mexican, right? Because that's exactly what they did to me. But I'm Native Mexican American, so I have Mexican doctors, discriminate against me because I'm Pasquale-Yaqui and I'm a Jew. Just like I have white doctors discriminate against me because I'm Native Mexican, I'm Pasquale-Yaqui and I'm a Jew, right? That's why the police officers are, I mean, this is all real, but that's what they do. And they ostracize you to isolate you from society. That's, look up this, this Forbes health report. These are, doctors with credentials and everything, and they're not lying. This is what they study. This is what they research, and this is what their research, this is what they discovered in their research. These people have higher education, and this is what they discovered, and they, say, hey, look, this is what it's like when you're gaslighted. So my PTSD not only comes from the work accident, but it also comes from the numerous, health professionals that discriminated against me, that gaslit me, that made me seem like I was the bad person, made me feel bad. When I first met my wife, I said, look, I feel bad for these doctors because when they get investigated, like these police officers and judges and district attorneys, even the mayor, Ginger Nelson, I'm going to push for them cats to go to prison. Hell no, they have no respect for my life. I have no pity, no remorse, right? But right now, this is how I feel. But back then, I was telling my wife, I said, when they get investigated, these people are going to, their whole reputation, their whole life is going to be crashed. They're going to go to prison because this is this is crimes against humanity now. And then, as I explained to her, I could probably file a complaint to United Nations, and I probably need to start doing that, right? But I felt bad. I felt guilty for them. I couldn't believe they would risk their life and their careers. Right? For what? All you had to do was call the ambulance when he found out this happened 7 hours before. All you had to do was call 911, get an ambulance over. This dude was crushed. Sorry, hey, I ain't doing anything wrong, right? Because these are doctors and everything, and they're white and they're Mexican American and they're conservative. So yeah, if these powerful people try to ruin their life, their careers, they could go public to the news agency like, look, I'm a whistleblower. Where's my whistleblower protections, right? Look, this cat got this young man came over here, is crushed, and all I did was call 911 because he got crushed 7 hours before, and that's all she had to do. That's all these doctors had to do was do the right thing. But I was gaslit, so I felt bad. I felt it was my fault. That's what they do. They psychologically manipulate you. But look at the time and what I was going through when they did it. That's why it makes it a crime against humanity. I was crushed. That's a miracle in itself that I didn't die. Then I have to go through now the psychological manipulation, emotional manipulation, right? All that stuff. Homeless, lost everything. Nobody would help me. Man, I just knew I had to rely on my faith. I read the Bible in Hebrew, in Greek, and I studied, right? And I had to keep pushing forward, knowing that God's going to help me. But going on 5 years now, I don't think God's real, right? Like, look at this stuff, man. Where's my justice at, right? These cats physically assaulted me, then all these professionals psychologically assaulted me. They tried to destroy me. When they saw that they physically couldn't do it, but these people are conservative Christians. Trust me, they're conservative Christians. So they know God is involved with, intervene on my behalf. So they knew they couldn't physically, after that doctor assaulted me, they knew they couldn't just go and try to murder me and stuff. They knew they're like, something's up with this guy. We got, I don't know, he's a Jew too. Because I started telling these doctors, hey, look, I read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Because remember, they gaslight you to discredit you. They're calling me a drug addict, a liar, treat me right, call me a criminal, say I'm committing insurance fraud. but none of these people reached out to any police officers here, right? I'm not under investigation for insurance fraud, because if they come investigate, right, in the perfect world, how I used to operate, right, when the investigators come, there's going to be these cats, these powerful people that have ties to these billionaires out here in Amarillo. Look this stuff up, man. All kind of billionaires live around here. That's why I said I got bad luck, man. Right? But that's how they gaslight people, and I felt bad for them. Now I don't feel bad. I'm like, man, I hope these cats get their life ruined. I hope they spend the rest of their life in prison, because what they did to me, let me tell you, there's a lot of people that aren't alive that are dying here in Texas. So I have to look up the FBI. Are they coming here and looking at, there's a lot of Mexican Americans dying here at the work site. Up too. So imagine if I would have died, because remember I pointed out there's witnesses. So I got from another co-worker at that time, 4.5 years ago. He told me he witnessed the general superintendent, this cat named Steven, right? They were actually they were coercing the witnesses, the crews I was working with, and the excavator operator, what to say and what to write down as a statement in a notebook. Then he said he saw a second notebook in Steven's truck. He saw the first one and the second one, and he saw Steven writing. He said he goes, what it looked like to him was that he was rewriting what these people said in their statement. So in July, remember, I'm the one that filed my workers' compensation claim. The employer never did. Texas Mutual Insurance Company never did. I had to file it with Texas Mutual Insurance Company after I contacted Texas Department of Workers' Compensation. That's how I found out. And they changed the dates rating on that. I wasn't writing this stuff down, but I contacted Texas Department of Workers' Compensation because, like I said, these doctors were arguing with me. They wouldn't prescribe me any pain medication, no medical plan, nothing. They're treating me like a criminal. So I contacted Texas Department of Workers' Compensation and told them, I was like, hey, I was involved in a work accident. They're like, well, they seem helpful. But let me tell you this, that first representative was a black woman, if I remember correctly, and she seemed very eager to help me. So she's like, what's the name of the company? And I told her the name. Oh, it's Texas Mutual Insurance Company. So she told me I had to file my claim with the Texas Mutual Insurance Company, because she told me on the database that there was no report from the employer or the insurance carrier of my work accidents, 3 of them. Okay. So eventually I filed a complaint with Texas Department of Workers' Compensation, the fraud unit, right? And those statements that they had, they're gone, or they still have them and they're refusing to give them to me. So the Texas Mutual Insurance Company, when I requested my file the last, 2 or 3 times, they're committing insurance fraud. It's just crazy. Some of the, a good portion of the file they gave me is someone else's work accident here in Texas. And then a lot of it is just the same, like one document that I went to a clinic, and that's like copied at least 10 times, 20 times even. And there's a lot of nuances like that throughout this whole file they gave me. But they haven't given me the statements for these witnesses. Why? Because they got rid of those statements. So what I began to notice was every time they lied about me, try to, when they villainized me, it seemed like God or some, supernatural things were happening, because I ended up with all these documents at the end of the day to contradict, right, what they're saying, to support what I'm saying over here. Everything they used against me. And that's why they're not trying to murder me now. But they try to, they went and psychologically manipulated me. They gaslighted me. And I didn't know. I just discovered this stuff tonight. And it could be because I'm healing from the injuries, not in a good way. I could be dying. I mean, that's how intense the pain is. I mean, I'm so limited in walking right now, you guys, and taking showers and stuff. That's why I'm trying to push these YouTube videos out there. But every time I push these videos, you have to understand I have extreme PTSD. Not only am I dealing with the physical trauma, I'm dealing with the mental health trauma. Man, this stuff, and I probably already had strokes because my left side of my cheek right here in my mouth. I was telling my wife the other day, like, man, I've been asking, I've been making these videos and everything and telling doctors, right, psychiatrists, and, here at Texas Panhandle Center the last 3 years, they're saying I had bipolar. And after the assault from the medical doctor, a new, practitioner by the name of Martha Flores here in Emerald, Texas, and her last name is spelled with an S, Martha Flores. She's the one that treated me the year before, okay, before my work accident, before 2018, back in 2017. She had no problem with me being hypochondriacal, right? And she's the one that made the references too for specialists for me to see. Actually, what was it for? It wasn't specialist. I think it's for mental health or something, right? But she didn't gaslight me, so it's like you saw. Do you see what I'm saying? But she's the one that after the assault, said that I was hypochondriacal. It's a mental health issue, and I even have Northwest Texas Hospital telling Texas Mutual Insurance Company that the insurance carrier owes money to Northwest Texas Hospital because they said this hypochondriacal illness that I have stems from my June 18, 2018 work accident. But that's nowhere in my Texas Injured Workers' Compensation claim. It's not part of my max medical improvement rating. In fact, like 80 of these diagnoses I have aren't even part of my max medical improvement rating. They're committing insurance fraud on top. Like they commit so many crimes, like they're sloppy at it, I guess, or something. Or they're supernatural to, God is showing, protecting me and using me to expose these powerful people because, man, all I can say from personal experience, this matches up to what Donald Trump, right, psychologically manipulating Republican voters. He tried to psychologically manipulate and emotionally manipulate the American public, the majority of us, all of us. Look at George Santos over there. His fool's under investigation in Brazil. Look at all these people that are supporting Donald Trump. They went and breached the United States Capitol. And you guys are, a lot of people, in my opinion, are disillusioned. They don't think that's possible that we're going to lose the United States. And it looks like it. Look what happened in Brazil. They're showing a comparison, right? So you see, but they're not comparing it to Germany. But remember, Germany proactively, just last month, arrested a lot of people that were engaging to overthrow the government of Germany. And you already know what Germany is associated with too, white supremacy in the United States, right? The neo-Nazis. So it was that sect over there in Germany trying to overthrow the government. And the government government and the officials were like, nah, we ain't having that repeated here in Germany. And they arrested these people. And then just, last week you hear about what happened, or just, was it the other day? What happened in Brazil, comparing it to the United States of America. And people might get offended, but look, let's logically think this through. If you're the American president and you have mass voter fraud and right, the Democratic Party is not supporting you and you have all this mass evidence, you would have showed all your politicians, look, here's the proof. These cats would have been on your back, had your back 100%. And let's say all the courts fail you like they did with Donald Trump, right? Everything, right? They're being failed because supposedly they're governed by the Democratic Party, right? Now, you gotta remember, these are the same Republicans and these churches and everything, and or these religious institutions that say that promote that the Jews own the banks and the government and all. Do you see the comparison of the logic there with Donald Trump and the mass voter fraud and accusing the Jews of being bad people and all this crazy nonsense, right? But if you're the American president, all these systems fail you and you're a billionaire, so what are you going to do? right? You're gonna. I know I would. I would say, you know what? I'm going public with all this stuff, and all my politician friends in all these different states, right? Governors and mayors, and like Ken Paxton, Attorney General. I'll be faxing them. Here's the proof of the mass voter fraud. Go public with this. Go down to the city hall. Go down to these traditional places where United States American citizens used to go, right? When we had serious allegations, when we had serious decisions to make, right? That's what I would have done. You got the money to, right? What's more important to you, your money or your country? Because if you're from the United States of America and you're a billionaire, and the United States government ends up incarcerating you, right? Because Joe Biden's a criminal, right? The Democrats are criminals, right? They committed mass voter fraud. So you have no choice but to go public because these cats are supposed to lock you up, incarcerate you, get rid of you, destroy you, right? And destroy America. But we don't see that evidence coming from Joe Biden. Now, I know Joe Biden, his attorneys today or yesterday discovered a couple of things. The way it's presented is like it's not even thousands of pages of, classified information. Not like what they're saying Donald Trump had thousands, right? Tens of thousands of pages of, um, what was it? It's classified information, but it's more classified than what Joe Biden attorneys turned in willingly to the National Archives, right? Donald Trump, remember, the FBI had to go over there and raid Mar-a-Lago to get those documents because he was in denial. Then after the raid, they discovered more documents, right? So people are trying to say, well, look at Joe Biden did the same thing over here. No, because when these attorneys discovered this stuff, it wasn't classified information in a sense as more serious, as serious as Donald Trump's documents. And these people turned them in, right? Versus Donald Trump over there, he wasn't willing to give that, to return it, right? And he's still trying, and he's still going publicly saying, the FBI is being weaponized against them. Now the Republicans are going, and now imagine that. Okay, right in front of our eyes, the Republican Party is weaponizing the United States Constitution to now investigate the Department of Justice. Imagine that. And some people are like, yeah. For what? Because we're logically and rationalizing right now, thinking this through. If this is all true, right, you're a multi-billionaire, you're going to go public with your mass voter fraud evidence. And he said that 2 years ago. A lot of these Republican voters forgot about that. They forgot Donald Trump said he had mass voter fraud evidence. Where's it at? Like I said, I just explained to you, these people are trying to get rid of you. That means they're going to take your money from you. So your money is going to be worthless to you when you're dead, right? Or they incarcerate you, whatever, right? So he would have went public with his mass voter fraud evidence. And the only reason why he hasn't is because, one, there's two reasons. The first one is it don't exist. The second reason is if you went public with freaking mass voter fraud evidence that's fraudulent, the Department of Justice, FBI swoop in and arrest him and these politicians engaged in overthrowing the United States democracy today, right? They would have concrete evidence and the public will see it. And then these cats will be going to prison a lot sooner, right? A lot quicker. But this is psychological manipulation. Practical lessons from how I was treated, comparing it to like George Santos deceiving the voters over there in New York. That's what they get. I'm sorry. If you're still wanting to, okay, for example, a person that I would vote for would be like Liz Cheney, right? Why? Because she's a Republican. If Donald Trump, she supported Donald Trump. If Donald Trump showed her mass voter fraud evidence, she wouldn't win against him. But because she went against him, those voters from her home state, right, voted her out of office for doing the right thing. Imagine that. But if she ran for the president because she took the action, the pro action to hold Donald Trump and these other people engaged in this, conspiracy to overthrow the United States government by psychologically manipulating the public, I would vote for her if she runs for president based on that premise. So, but I'm just comparing, my personal experience to like Donald Trump, right? And they're always engaging in conspiracies, their theories, right? And they're always targeting people. Went from illegal immigrants, right? Because 5 years ago, look, listen to my story. This is the fallout from Donald Trump, right? The United States president calling illegal immigrants rapists and murderers and killers and all kinds of stuff, right? And only a small percentage of them are good. So these cats at work start looking at me, dog, and start discriminating against me. They try to murder me. And and once I filed a workers' compensation claim, I'm American citizen. What are you guys talking about? And further became a victim, and now I'm ostracized, and now I'm at the mercy of the American public. What are you going to do about it, right? I mean, obviously, if my life has any value, right? If nobody wants to come advocate on my behalf and say, look, this is wrong, because all this cat's trying to do is say, look, I was having a time of my life at work, and these cats try to murder me for it. I didn't do anything wrong. Ain't my fault. These cats didn't have the aptitude. It took them 30, 40 years to learn all this heavy machinery and blueprints and whatever, right? So I'm just trying to get help and I don't think that there's going to be any help for me, but I'm trying to make videos. I'm making videos to try to inform the American public and rest of the world, like for gaslighting and what it's like. Because when you're gaslighted, like I said, you might think you're the strongest person, the biggest person, right? Smartest person, but imagine being crushed, your whole body, the point of contact. You have crush concussions to your brain, to your head. Who knows what's broken in my head, right? In my neck and back. I can tell you the intense pain hasn't changed. It's only getting worse, and I'm limited in moving around. My mobility is limited. That's how I ended up on Social Security, because of my workers' compensation all the diagnoses I'm telling you guys about. Because these cats never told me about majority of them. All they told me about was 3 injuries. They said my neck was sprained and strained, my thoracic was sprained and strained, and my lumbar was sprained and strained. If you look at these, you start seeing that these symptoms are similar to fractures, to broken necks and back and everything. And that's just, like I said, I'm trying to get help, but the trauma, it gets me sick. And, I don't make videos periodically because that's how much pain I'm in. That's just how much, I keep burping because, the pain up here, who knows what's all wrong right here in, my abdomen. I just know I have heartburn like crazy now, since the work accidents. And, but it's real. Gaslighting people, it's real. I'm a victim of it. And I just discovered this tonight, reading this journal. So God bless for its health. If you ever watch this video, hey, I want to thank you and the doctor when that involved in giving this report. And I've been proactive in mental health treatment the last 3 years. The psychiatrist said I was bipolar. So imagine that, taking medication, right? And it's ineffective because you're at the end of the day, the doctor switched, like she quits, right? After what happened in Uvalde, Texas, because the psychiatrist was Latina, and I told her, she's from the East Coast. I said, you got to help me out here. You got to do something. I said, you're a psychiatrist. You have more influence than me. You have more connections than me. Because if not, the nation needs to know how Texas government is treating Mexican Americans out here. We're dying at work for being Mexican American. And imagine that, also, 3 years telling the same stuff over and over and over, talking about the work accident, the abuse, all this stuff. She never diagnosed me with gaslighting. She knows what it is. She's a psychiatrist, probably has a master's degree or has a master's degree. She knows, but that's how powerful these people are. She sold me out for money. Because at the end of the day, like Jesus Christ said, right? If you want to believe in the New Testament, he says, the root for all evil is money, or money is the root of all evil. So Uvalde happens. I don't see her for my appointment. She quits. Now she's in private practice. She never reached out to me and said, hey, I want to help you. You see what I'm saying? Because the lady, she's a psychiatrist, and now she's back into private practice. That means she can call me, and we were already only having phone calls because I didn't want to go to that clinic no more. I feel when I go to these medical appointments and psychiatric appointments, like tomorrow I have to go see my case manager, right? And now she's going to be with me when I see my psychiatrist, because this new psychiatrist saw her for the first time. She threatened to take me off the medication I was on, Praxisen and clonidine or something for the blood, So in the pavilion, the mental health hospital at the Northwest Texas Hospital, I was involuntary committed last year in November, right, 2022. And they did it. My case manager said, look, she came and saw me in my apartment, and she saw that I was, one, mentally deteriorating, and two, physically in pain, just crazy, right? So her and her supervisor had to go to court and tell them that I'm mentally, to basically they have me involuntary committed in order for me to receive medical treatment. That's how bad things are. So my case manager is going to be with me with the psychiatrist, because the medication they put me on at the hospital, they told me I had to take the high blood pressure medication because the Praxisen is going to increase my blood pressure. Now I see a psychiatrist, and she's telling me, condescending to me, and already feel like I'm being interrogated, right? Like I'm doing something wrong for asking for help. And she threatens to take me off of this medication, all medication. So what that means is, but see, I have insurance now, so I was indigent. And what that means for indigent people, if at the Texas Panhandle Center, if you're there for mental health treatment, if the doctor prescribes you medication, you have to take the medication in order to receive indigent services. Okay, I don't know if that's wrong, or to me, I have a problem with that, right? I mean, I've always been proactive with my severe depression that got biasly distorted and manifested as bipolar, right? Manic, by that, that Latina psychiatrist the last 3 years. So it took that hospital and all that stuff to diagnose me with PTSD just 2 months ago. And this new psychiatrist threatened to take me off the medication because I just told her, I said, hey, this Praxisen, can you prescribe me some kind of medication for blood pressure? And she's like, oh, I can't. We don't do that here or something. And then she prescribes me clonidine, takes me off the Praxisen and prescribes me clonidine. Now, the clonidine's not working as great as the Praxisen. But do you see what I'm going through? The gaslighting? But she threatened to take me off the medication, and I guess she forgot I have insurance. So I'm like, cool, you don't want to prescribe me medication, whatever. And I told her, write this down. Put a statement, what you just said. Give it to me so I can be on my way. Cool, I'm gone. See you later, right? And she's another coward, right? It's like that doctor that's up to me. Want to sit there, talk big and bad, but don't want to write a statement down. You don't want to snitch on yourself. So why are you going to mistreat people, especially now in mental health, right? Mental health patients. And it's like they just abuse patients, dog. And Texas has a history of their doctors abusing their patients and murdering people. Man, look this stuff up. See what they're currently doing. There's a new guy. They finally caught him. A new doctor was going around putting some kind of medication in the IV bags again and murdering people. That was just last year in 2022, the end of last year. Texas and the Texas Medical Board. Yeah, I had a hearing with them in 2021, and they're gaslighting me because I guess his doctor told them. Because once again, we gotta remember this is now the Texas Medical Board, right? This is this dude's buddy and stuff. Because the medical doctor that assaulted me is up in his 70s, and people try to clown me. Oh, you got beat up by an old man. Yeah. Watch when it happens to you. Watch when you go in there, think you're a gangbanger or think you're big and bad, right? You're a tough guy, and that freaking doctor assaults you, and then the police officers threaten you, and then there's no justice for you. You can't, no attorney, well, you can't hire an attorney, you can't sue them, no lost time of wages, pain and suffering, nothing, right? But that's what they do here. And this guy's been a doctor since 1977. So you're gonna tell me he don't have powerful connections? Yeah, he did. He persuaded these detectives to threaten me. And Wesley Brown, the detective for the violent unit, right, for the assault, this guy recorded the phone call when he threatened me and told me if I pressed charges on the medical doctor that he was going to press charges on me. That's illegal right there. That's obstruction of justice. And this cat recorded it, and they still have the phone call. In my police report, I don't have it because they don't want to give it to me. What am I supposed to do in the condition that I'm in? Right? Everything I do, I'm stressed out, dog. I'm stressed out just to get off the damn computer right now. I'm so stressed out to get off the YouTube to go to bed, right? Take my medication and crash out and get ready for my appointment tomorrow. I'm stressed out about everything now, and that's extreme PTSD. Everything I'm stressed out. I don't want to be. I mentally challenge myself every day. I know how to work with mental health. I just beat severe depression, you know? And this is going to take a while, and maybe I end up dying because I was crushed and I haven't received medical treatment, and I'm still being gaslighted, psychologically abused, right? Body can only take so much abuse. Eventually the body's just going to say, I can't go no more. And the mind's going to be like, yeah, I'm ready to go too. And then the shaman, right, the soul is like, how it talks to God, and God's like, yeah, you guys fought. You guys fought for all these years trying to get help. There was no help. Yeah, just lay Jeffrey down over there and let him go to sleep, right? Then I come back in the resurrection of the dead. Like, oh, you motherfuckers are going to hell. Right? But that's all I'm doing, and just keeping a positive attitude and moving forward, and using my personal experience. And I think this is important for the viewer to pay attention. Don't think it won't happen to you because you can't predict human behavior. You can't predict animal behavior. You don't know when it's going to happen. I'm just telling you, this stuff happened for almost 5 years ago, and look at how drastically the United States has changed. If people would have heard my story 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, but this is something serious. The Texas government, lobbyism, Republican politicians, police officers, doctors, directors of hospitals, both the hospitals here. These people messed up big time, right? And this would have changed the course of the United States of America history 4.5 years ago. But because I got ostracized, family, everybody turned against me. I'm not lying, everybody. But my case manager is going to go with me and to see my psychiatrist from now on, because my case manager is saying it's hard for me to talk, right? And because Pisces, the hanging on my lip, all that stuff. I already had strokes. I was telling my wife, I was telling my TikTok viewers, that was the first video I made, was last year. Said, look, I'm actually using TikTok, social media, to help me rethink and re-talk. It was hard for me to talk. One, I was just in panic mode for 3.5 years, just like I was in a mania, right? No, that was the PTSD. That was the stress. I was in fight mode for 3.5 years, and it's still in it, right? It's came down, but and they misconstrued and exploited that. Said, yeah, he's bipolar, he's crazy, right? All that stuff, and that's why the last 2 months I've been diagnosed with PTSD now. Yeah, I want to commit suicide. Ask these war veterans that come back and they deal with PTSD. They'll tell you. They tell you exactly what it's like. And my message to them is, look, I might have not, look, I'm at war in our homeland. And I'm not at war. It's the government of Texas at war with me. Because that's exactly what I thought, back in 2018. Like, these people started a war with me, right? But that's the gaslighting too. I was like, man, if American citizens, everybody, right? My peers, I catch wind of this, they're like, this is inhumane. Hold on, But the veterans, I want you to know too. So yeah, it is what it is. I got I'm being dehumanized here in the United States of America. 5 years of it. But with your PTSD too, your extreme PTSD, look, I don't know. I don't know. I try to keep positive. I try to associate and relate to things now. I feel like I'm so distant from everything. Like I have no intimacy with books, nothing, right? Because I'm stressed out, constantly stressed out, all day, all night. Shit, it's so bad. Today, when I go to sleep, and what wakes me up is that not in my dreams, but out here, I'm hearing loud noises, and I wake up just full alert. And then I'm like, man, that was just a dream. So the nightmares and stuff that I have, imagine that. Now I'm on medication, clonidine. What's clonidine going to do? These people are wanting me to, you know, mentally deteriorate. That's what they're doing. That's why this lady took me out this praxis. That stuff was working better than the clonidine. But, you know, I just keep pushing forward. I try to keep a positive attitude. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to snap. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm not going to hurt myself. But I'll tell you what, I'll hurt myself before I hurt another person because they don't know. Nobody else knows what it's like to have this extreme PTSD and to be isolated, to be gaslighted, right? Nobody knows unless you're experiencing it. And, they don't know. People I discovered are preconditioned already to be biased. So when you come back and you come back with PTSD, your wife, children, family, they look at you different. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. That's just part of life. But, people being prepositioned to be biased against people with mental health illness. Like the Republican Party, right? Now they're the ones villainizing mental health patients. So think about it, right? Last couple of years, villainizing mental health patients, 4 years, 5 years, the Republican Party. And look at what I'm saying, how they're treating me here in Texas. This is real. But physically, I'll, hurt myself before I hurt another person or creature, that much. But every day it's how. It's how. Um, some days I have, they're less good days, but at least I have one or two good days out of the month or something, versus just 31 days or 30 days pure hell. And I just, I really don't believe in God, even though I said, he involved, he intervened, he performed a miracle. But I understand God. So I guess that's the difference. What kept me alive up to this point, I don't have this faulty, shallow belief system. I know God's real. Just, researching world history and looking at the ancient civilizations, all these ancient civilizations, they all knew there was a God. Or they were polytheists, polytheistical worshippers, right? They worship more than one God. But the point is, um, they knew there was supernatural powers. And then you had the Jewish people that, appeared and they said there's only one God, control of everything. This is all, um, we're all living basically, we're creatures. We're everything that we experience is created by God. even concepts, words, letters, all that stuff, your mind, your thoughts, everything, your education, that all comes from God, So that, I understand this. And so I don't believe in God. I never believed Jesus Christ was God, I'll tell you that much. Because it doesn't say in the Greek. Even if you're just reading the regular English translation, it don't say he's God. Majority of the verses, and I think it's in Galatians that, says that he was divine or something, or, you translated him as God, but in the Greek, it's saying that he's a divine being, something similar to like the angel Gabriel over there. In Hebrew is described as a Ish, not a Adam. In Hebrew, Adam means like a man, right? And an Ish is like a man from heaven, and that's how the New Testament presents Jesus Christ, right? He's the man from heaven, not God from heaven. So you see, the prophet Gabriel in the Hebrew, he's not an Adam, he's an Ish, and he's a man. It says the man Gabriel, but it says Ha Ish Gabriel. It doesn't say Ha Adam. Adam is like Adam and Chava, Adam and see, I'm learning Hebrew so much I forgot the English name for Adam's wife, the first woman, Eve, right? He's a Adam. And really, that could be translated. The most appropriate translation is human. He's a human being. Gabriel is a supernatural being. That would probably be a more appropriate definition of an Ish. So I didn't believe Jesus. I never prayed to Jesus Christ and worship him as God and all that stuff. Anyways, and I come from the Roman Catholic Church. I was Christianized as a baby. But understanding God and listening to the rabbis on YouTube, right, and Facebook, just listening to their concepts and a lot of information has helped me. My ex-wife, her dogs and everything, they helped me too. The animals. And I guess how they helped me so much, the animals, is because they accepted me. When you're ostracized from society, blackballed, when you're gaslighted, rejected. I'm surprised I even got married. I don't know how I got married. But how about what my wife saw in me? I was homeless. But the animals helped me through. It made me have to rub them, rub their bellies, give them treats, take them outside, interact with them, right? Um, that is what's helped me with this PTSD. And it's not like I'm saying it's a cure. It ain't cure me. It's just help. It's help. It's helped me in place of no medical treatment and no psychiatry treatment. I don't drink and use drugs. I smoke weed once in a while, but alcohol. Recently, I just bought a 12 pack for July 1st, and I used to have like 8 beers, that's how much I drank, like 4 beers since then. So I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not a drug addict. The animals helped me, my understanding of God helped me to get through the PTSD, but it's hard. And will it get worse? I don't know. I'm too stressed out to research it. Pretty sure you can find out on YouTube what's the outcome of untreated extreme post-traumatic stress disorder, right? I don't know. So. And the feeling is just, and I don't know if that's PTSD where I feel isolated, but I was gaslighting. So remember, these people psychologically manipulated me versus like the veterans. I don't think they're psychologically manipulated, right? At war, they could have been. I don't know. I know there's psychological warfare and everything, but imagine getting shot at in war and then a doctor said, "There's nothing wrong with you," even though you got a bullet hole, right? And I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. I haven't received any treatment. So, and I'm just pushing through. It's hard. My body's in pain. My whole life's changed. I mean, I can't even drive a vehicle, man. Can't play basketball anymore. Can't play pool. Can't play ping pong. Can't play foosball. Air hockey. Can't definitely can't hold a freaking a bowling ball no more. You know. I mean, I could do it, but it's going to cause so much pain. I'm in so much pain moving my arms around right here and talking on this video. So I'm just trying to, say, look, this education too. I'm always watching the news and researching this and that and trying to, right? You know, I talk big, like I sit there and taking so much information. Yeah, for me, my condition, it's a lot of information, but truthfully, it's most of the time, it's just like I can only take in like a paragraph of like a news article, right? That's changed. I mean, with the brain, head injuries, all this trauma in my body, and the psychological manipulation, PTSD. That's all I can take in. You know, but I feel better making these YouTube videos too. I noticed that in my last video, getting the courage to just talk about it. I'm getting shut down by everybody, man. You would think your own family, own wife, everybody, right, would have your back. It seems like everybody come shit on me. But I understand people have been preconditioned by these religious institutions, and then by watching TV. So I have a better handle on how I interact with everybody, right? It makes me feel like I'm the crazy one, right? But that's what gaslighting does. I'm in need of serious help over here, right? And all you can do is make the best of it. But when you're constantly disrespected by people too, what do you do then? When you're stressed out, you're gonna snap on somebody. So I social, I isolate purposely too. And maybe I thought it was purposely, I was isolating from society, but that's just how bad the psychological manipulation has been, that I isolated myself. And I feel guilty, like I done something wrong, but I'm starting to understand that I haven't done anything wrong. It's these people, powerful people, billionaires, millionaires, that committed the crimes, and they're using the law to protect themselves and prosecute me. And that fear and terror of talking about it, I just been talking for 4.5 years, 3 years with my psychiatrist, hours, typically people go into the psychiatrist for maybe appointment for a half hour at the most, right? I was staying up to like 1 or 2 hours, three times. And, they started saying, hey, I can't be in here that long. And it got reduced down to like an hour. And then she quit. So just talking about it, right? I mean, I just can't get my mind on. If I could just get mine off of what happened and how I'm being treated, like just everything, then I would do a lot better in life. But I just can't get my mind off of being crushed, hit in the back, threatened, in a vehicle company truck. I had whiplash from that first work accident, and assaulted and gaslighted, just abused, dehumanized, right? Arrested, all this crazy stuff. No due process, right? No attorneys, nothing, right? Enough stuff that'll make you insane. To, like I said, psychologically, I've been aware for the last 4.5 years that it's so bad. Like making this video right here, I mean, these people might try to have me involuntary committed again. In that place, what I witnessed last month or back in November 2022, they're letting the freaking mental health patients over there get abused. The nurses and everybody in there, that's not a good place. I told my case manager, she filed a complaint. These chicks were running around freaking naked and stuff because co-ed. The nurses were laughing at us and laughing at them and laughing at us. A man cracked a woman in the mouth. Police came like an hour later, like there was no security involved. They didn't separate them, so this dude could have went and hit this chick even more. You know what I'm saying? When you have nurses, right? They're sickos. It's a cult, and they do it because they know that if you try to touch them or do something to them, they'll take life, and they get away with it. Or you're mentally ill because you're gaslighted, right? So you're the victim. In reality, you're the victim, but they're the victimizers. But they treat the gas. I mean, it's like they're professionals at gaslighting. They'll become the victims, and you'll become the victimizer. That's what they did with that medical doctor, the Texas Medical Board. You know, they have the recording still. They can't get rid of that. Let's say if the Department of Justice got involved right now and said, "Hey, we're gonna go talk to the Texas Medical Board concerning this dude over here, and we want that video." They say, "Well, we didn't record a video." Well, hey, I got witnesses and stuff that there was a video because this was done over the Zoom link, and they told me they're recording this video. And they didn't ask me for my permission. They just told me they're recording it. I was too afraid to say, "Hey, since you're recording it, I'm gonna record this conversation too." Remember, I was assaulted, just dehumanized. Like my reputation's thrown out the window. Um, I'm, I'm psychologically manipulated, gaslighted. Just my whole existence just run into the ground, right? So they still have it, and the investigators they go ask for it. I'm like, we don't have it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's going to look bad on them, just like over here at the Amarillo Police Department when they asked for that phone recording when that detective threatened me and then press charges on me. Yeah, that's discrimination too. They still have that audio by law. They have to, and if it disappears, then look it, they're going to be in serious trouble because this is a serious crime. That was attempted murder. That doctor tried to murder me, and I had a death grip. Or like I said, when you're knocked unconscious, you're supposed to let go. Like in my case, I'm supposed to let go of my phone. I was unconscious, and like the doctors at the Texas Medical Board hearing, when they asked me, "How do you know you're unconscious?" I said, "Because I felt somebody tugging something from my hands. That's what woke me up. And when I woke up, I saw stars, yellow stars and white stars, and everything was black. I was disoriented, and I immediately, this is all split seconds, you guys, and I immediately, resisted until I realized, like, this doctor just assaulted me from a phone, and I'm freaking out because I can't see nothing but stars, right? Yellow stars and white stars and stuff, and blackness. So I let go of the phone as a sign. Because in my mind, I'm like, let go of the phone to show him it's a sign that you're surrendering, right? Your phone. Remember, when you're blind and getting attacked, dog, that's a bad experience right there. And this fool stayed on top of me. Then I realized he had me forward on my back and my neck, my head, my neck, and my shoulder blades. So that was a death grip, because when you're knocked unconscious, you just let everything go. So that's attempted murder right there, and that's why everything's been covered up. And I just wanted to put this gaslighting video out there. So maybe, hey, like, God forbid that maybe this video will help you mentally prepare for a situation when you're victimized like this, and it's not only physical abuse, but it's mental health. It's psychological abuse. You can, I don't know, rely on my video. I mean, somehow, hopefully, it educated you, made some points that it can mentally prepare you to how to respond to a situation like this. I would say just looking back now, look, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Stay calm, cool, collective. Um, Take deep breaths. Don't get mad. Don't get angry. Especially don't get terrified or be afraid. Yeah, you're gonna be like, if you experienced it, or if you're experiencing it now or going to, you're gonna be like, man, it's easier said than done. No, I've been there. I'm looking back. what I would have done differently, right? Or the things I did do. And I had to isolate, but just reading this article tonight, maybe when I isolated, that was the worst thing I could do, because they wanted me to isolate. They wanted me to get away from everybody. Because as soon as I disappear, so does the crime disappear, because I'm the victim, I'm the witness to it. And they wanted to manipulate my behavior through the psychological abuse so that I would commit suicide. I wanted to. Trust me, when you're homeless and you're trying to work and you just can't, you're losing your jobs, and everyone, his life is moving forward except for yours. And that's what it felt like for me. I became an anti-worker for a couple of years. I was mad watching everybody working and stuff. I was like, man, because I couldn't work, can't work, man. I have a kind of experience, man. I'm just in pain right now. I gotta get off this video, this YouTube, and I guess those are the points I'm trying to make. And just don't panic and don't be terrified, and take deep breaths and understand you're not the only one that's been gaslighted. My story: physically assaulted, um, mentally assaulted, emotionally assaulted, no justice, nothing, you guys, nothing, nothing. I mean, I'm in so much pain every day. My head hurts. These headaches I get, it's just crazy. And those headaches are from the brain injury. But just try to stay intact and understand a lot of people being preconditioned to be biased. And when you say something like, if you experience something like similar to my case, right, they're gonna automatically think you're crazy, and they're gonna naturally want to, well, not naturally, but they're automatically going to want to distance themselves from you. And when that happens, just know, hey, you're better off by yourself, and stay away from the drugs and alcohol. Try to get mental health treatment. Keep pushing, keep talking, asking for help. Control your emotions. Don't argue and fight with people. Um, Go on walks. Exercise. It's hard, but this is things that I found that was able to help me. Today, I went out and just got away from this apartment. I'm just going crazy just being in this damn apartment all day, all night. And earlier today, I went and, the laundromat's like 2 or 3 blocks away. So I had to carry my cart, right? Imagine that. I'm 40 years old, got a little baggage cart, pulling it, right? Struggling. And I'm a big dude. And I'm not mean like fat. I'm tall, right? And wide and everything. I weigh 240 and I'm athletic. I'm all crippled now, so this is all new outside of medical treatment. My whole life, everything has changed for the worse, and I'm struggling with my laundry in that cart. Not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm 40 years old, but I'm looking like I'm in my 60s, right? When people see me, they're like, "This dude's young. Why they got a cart?" You know, and that's a struggle to wash my laundry and stuff. Everything's changed. And I just try to stay positive, and hopefully I can find a person or people that can relate to the same experiences that I have. People that aren't going to be in, be shallow, I guess, and be fake. Because, like I said, you know, a lot of people are preconditioned to be biased, and the best thing to do is to try to, or to become unbiased, looking at it from the perspective of victims, I guess, with serious PTSD and physical abuse and mental health abuse, right? Emotional abuse. But I'm out of here. You guys have a good night. Hopefully, I made some points. Hopefully, I gave some information from my personal experiences and from this news article. And hopefully I can educate anybody that's bored on YouTube, gaslighting. But it seems like it happens all the time. It's better to prepare yourself for that and educate yourself. So when it does happen, automatically you can register in your mind what's happening. You're being psychologically attacked, and you know how to counter it. One way to counter it is disagree with them. They say you're crazy. You say, I'm not crazy. I think you're crazy. If they want to argue and stuff, just get up and get out of there. The more you interact with these people, like I said, I was in these examination rooms from 1 hour to 6 hours for at least 20 follow-up visits. Received no medical treatment, just abuse. Um, and looking back, I'm like, man, these people for hours were arguing with me. They would leave me in the room for a half hour, an hour, and then come back with the same stuff. And obviously, to me, it seemed that I inferred that they were contacting other people. So obviously, they're contacting the Texas Mutual Insurance Company, like this other program or this other service called the Wellness Work. Um, who knows? But they would exit the examination room. I mean, I have a security guard saying that he was monitoring me for my first 4 or 5 appointments at this clinic. And he said, and you didn't know. So imagine that. I'm using my legitimate Texas Injured Workers Compensation insurance. And this is after I've been assaulted by a doctor. Imagine that. Now I got to go, I'm asking for help, right? I ain't gonna be a coward and go back to Denver and stay in Denver. No, I'm American. This happened right here. This is the battlefront for me. Whether it's just me by myself, right? I know what's real. They know what's real. But now I have to go to these appointments, right? I was going to the Jail Wyatt Clinic here in Amarillo, Texas, and that's where I recorded. He was with the assistant director because I filed a complaint against the nurse practitioner. She didn't want to give me the MRIs that were done on my whole body. I have audio recordings of her telling me we MRI'd your whole body basically, except for your head, and that was the next request I had. And she wrote it down. It's in my workers' compensation claim. The Texas Mutual Insurance Company filed some kind of motion with their attorneys and somehow got the MRI canceled for my brain and everything. See, now this is an MRI, not a CAT scan. Now we're going to see how much damage I have. But she refused to give me the MRI for, my neck and my back, my arm, my body. And she wouldn't give me the physical therapy report. So that's where I recorded the security guard telling me that he's been watching me for the last 4 or 5 visits. So I probably only went to this clinic for like 6 times, right? But imagine going to a clinic for follow-ups and you get no medical treatment, no medical diagnoses, and you're in there from 1 to 6 hours. And you're being abused, psychologically abused. And now you have a security guard, right? Because if you snap, remember the whole purpose of a person to psychologically manipulate you is for you to be, and I always had the notion too. I remember now, I was always told my ex-wife, I said, look, it seemed like they were trying to trigger me to freaking cuss, yell, scream, threaten these doctors. I don't know why. I wanted to, but I didn't because I understood at that time. I had the feeling, the notion, the idea that these cats were trying to trigger me. Imagine that. Then this freaking security guard, you record this crap. I still listen to his audio once in a while. I'm like, damn, this shit's real. This stuff, sorry for cussing, but this stuff is real. The security guard tells me that he's been watching me for the last 4 or 5 visits, and I didn't know about it. And he goes, you didn't know about it. You didn't even see me, did you? I'm like, wow. For what? And what he said, what is my job? To harass patients, right? Because if I was committing insurance fraud, this nurse practitioner, assistant director, they could have called the Amarillo Police Department. But like I said, they can't because the investigators will come investigate them and find out they're the ones committing these crimes against me. And who knows what other patients, right, that they mentally destroyed that are still alive. There's a lot of homeless women down there and men, just crazy and stuff, saying crazy things. Um, how many people have they murdered and got away with it? But this is a government that's operating as a tyranny. And that this is the Texas government. It's a serious issue, and it's similar to what Donald Trump is pushing and the Republican Party. You know, I don't know. All I could say is, if I died today, or my conscience is clear. I warned people. I told people. I try to get there to realize. Try to get people to realize. Look, we're in a dire situation. This might happen to me. If you don't think it's going to happen to you and it doesn't happen to you, I want to know why. You see what I'm saying? But when I watched it happen to other people too in the last 3 years, being mistreated at work, and they're just fine with it. That's the way they want to live, and that's wrong because if they become a victim, right, eventually they will, and then their life will be destroyed, and hopefully they don't kill anybody, and hopefully they don't kill themselves. But all that could be avoided if people would just listen to my story. This is real. And I feel maybe, this, people say all the time, whether you believe in God or not, things happen for a reason. So maybe it took this long for me to, read this article that was recently published from the Forbes Health Journal and or news article, and, you know, explaining what gaslighting is like. That it could be anybody gaslighting you is what they're saying, even in domestic violence situations. But mine is coming from, um, from ex-coworkers, and employers, and police officers, and doctors, and judges, and prosecutors. It's just crazy. But all I could do is just keep educating myself. That stress takes me to a whole nother level. You know, the pain I'm in, I'm stressed. All that stuff. But I've known for a while now, maybe the last year, like, look, I start realizing through all this brain injuries and stuff, like these people are trying to kill me, and for some reason they couldn't, and they went to another part that I didn't know was possible. They psychologically abused me to harm me. Imagine that. Psychological injuries I'm talking about. And then the emotional abuse, the injuries. These are injuries. I'm talking about not only physical injuries, but psychological injuries and emotional injuries that I'm a victim of and I'm a survivor of. And reading this article, it's like, because when you have your voice taken away from you, when you're ostracized, I'm telling you, it's crazy. It is so freaking crazy. It's crazy. You know, um, I don't know how to explain it. Only way to explain it by is when you're ostracized, when you're blackballed from society, you're literally cut off from medical treatment, mental health treatment. Um, you're cut off from state law protections. Like, you don't have a right to get an attorney, to hire an attorney. Like, you don't have that right. It took 4 years for me to get disability, and you know the extreme condition I'm in. I'm being treated by a doctor like I'm lying. Once again, I'm being gaslighted for asking for help, asking the doctor, what can you do for me to get me out of this pain? I'm in a poor state, not only my mind but my body too. So what, how can you medically, with your experience in your medical science education, how do you treat me for this? And I'm being gaslighted still. So when you're blackballed, you're a victim, and everybody turns on you. That's what it seems like. And if you're experiencing this right now or have been, don't hurt the people. But once again, like I said, maybe you're not even experiencing that, and it's just because I have brain injuries. Everything's off for me, right? Not only, you know, do I have the psychological manipulation, but I have the brain injuries too, and the body trauma, the pain, and maybe that's why I talk from this perspective. Like, look, people are preconditioned to be biased, so you know, when you're dealing with PTSD, and don't hurt your family or any, but not even yourself, right? Because they're preconditioned. Maybe you don't even see that with extreme PTSD, and you're probably a war veteran. You probably don't even see that, but I see it. I know it's there because I have brain injuries. But if it does seem that way to you, just understand you're not alone. The isolation sucks. It's not even a loneliness. It's beyond being alone. I mean, you know, and then they use the financial abuse. So I was homeless, lost everything. I didn't own a house, but I rented, and I lost everything. Man, I'm stressed out about going to prison for not paying child support. Oh, over $10,000 now. I was caught up on my child support until these work accidents happened. But you know, I'm mentally preparing myself. So let's say these cats throw me in jail, right? Kim Paxton throws a warrant for me. That's a felony for not paying child support. While I go to jail, right? These cats gonna be asking me what am I in there for and who am I? Like, look, this is what's going on out there. Especially they send me to prison. Who knows? I could probably turn to prison against the freaking whole government in Texas. Who knows? For a good cause. But imagine me going in there and telling the attorney, because I'm indigent, right? The only income I have is Social Security, and you can't collect that when you're in jail. And then I get a state appointed attorney, right? That's like the freaking Nazi regime over there in Germany back in World War II. These people had, state officials that were criminalizing or, were violating humanity rights in Germany. It wasn't just, there's a lot of psychological abuse, just power abuse, all that, different fashions and forms. When you read about how they operated in Germany and the things they did to the Jewish people, and you know the minority groups in Germany, um, that would, so I would get high. I would obviously, and maybe they won't give me one. Maybe I'll just go to the prison system and then spend the rest of my life in there, because that's what they did for. So in 2018, after all this stuff happened, I got into altercation with my ex-girlfriend, and I kicked her 2 times in her leg. But I told her, we lucky, lucky I don't tell. But if the police would have did their job and they would have came and investigated me and took my statement down, I told her, like, look, you could be going to prison for some serious stuff here because what you did to me. So it wasn't like I abused her like a man, right? Like I'm a man abuser and stuff. I just kicked her 2 times in her leg, compared to people that just drop bombs on a woman, beat them down like a woman, right? But like I just said, I told her, you're lucky I don't tell them. Maybe I will eventually, like this is what she did to me. This, I snapped on her because all this shit happened to, all this crap happened to me and what she did to me. Um, you know. But so I came back here to Amarillo, Texas in 2019, right here, got here, I think July 1st, if I remember correctly. Turned myself in because I had a warrant for family violence. They put me in the federal pod. And this is a misdemeanor. Sat there, sat there for over 30 days. I requested a state appointed attorney because the inmates, the guys in there were saying, hey, you got to request that. So I did everything I was supposed to, right? They wouldn't let me see an attorney. I never talked to an attorney. They didn't let me, see the evidence that they had against me. So where's my due process, right? See, Americans need to start thinking, we take this stuff for granted. You think that if you're a victim of a crime or any way by the government, any government in the United States of America, right? And I'm talking about state governments and town governments and city governments, right? And you find yourself in a situation like me, don't lose your head. But you got to think about it. What happens when you're in a situation like me, where you have no contact with anybody, right? You can't call anybody collect, and you don't have no money for an attorney, but you have these allegations against you, and you're here, right? And they give you a state appointed attorney, but they don't let you see him. Like, you don't have no interaction at all with this attorney. That's against the law. That's against due process. How, you know? And because of the condition I'm in, I had to plead guilty because I tried to play handball in there. And I tried to, and I did some push-ups, and I just jacked up my body even more, it seemed like, or aggravated the injuries and everything, because I was gaslighted. I began to doubt myself. Maybe these doctors are right. Because look, I got not one doctor, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not, 8 doctors over here telling me there's nothing wrong with me. And that's the seriousness of being gaslighted. That should be illegal in the United States of America. I'm gonna look this up anyways and see if you're gaslighted by health professionals, is that a crime? It should be. Hell yeah. But that's how many doctors were gaslighting me, guys, a network of doctors. And I doubted myself. So I started, I played some handball, and I did some push-ups, and I just aggravated myself. And, I got the records that I was in there, and I requested medical treatment, and I was denied medical treatment in there, on top of not being able to see an attorney, and not being able to see the evidence. I got proof for all that stuff, And so the pain, and then I just started freaking out, like, damn, maybe these cats are going to try to keep me in here. And, I played guilty because I also wanted to see because I began to think, because the dudes were asking me, they're like, man, you stay down and see an attorney? I'm like, no, they ain't going to let me see an attorney, So remember, I'm in the federal pod for federal offenses. And this is the time when I found out I was put on the United States terrorist list. I was classified as a domestic terrorist for asking for help. Imagine that stuff, When the government and the FBI and the Department of Justice turns against you and calls you a criminal and gets you on this list, and you don't even know it, right? So yeah, I was on the United States, and Amarillo police officers told me this. So, um, so I knew I was in the federal pod. I was like, man, I was thinking maybe the FBI, Department of Justice, got me in here on protective custody. Maybe they're going to come in and take my statement down after all the complaints I filed with them, right? Hell no, these fools never even came, dog. But I'm paranoid, But my paranoia is not like it's unsound paranoia. No, this is sound paranoia. So imagine me telling a psychiatrist, it's like, are you paranoid? Like, yeah, but don't get it misconstrued. My paranoia is based on facts, not that I'm mentally ill paranoid. That look, I'm mentally ill from the paranoia because it's based on look at these crimes committed against me. Anybody with sound mind, anybody that's a critical thinker, anybody with a rational mind will be paranoid after experiencing this stuff, you know? It doesn't make you mentally ill. It says, look, hell yeah, I ain't trusting nobody. These people did all this trying to take my life. So I wanted to see, because I began to think, like, maybe these, even if I play guilty, because I already knew, and they know that I know that they know it's illegal for them to have me incarcerated, right? No due process rights, no attorney, nothing. Especially when it got to the 30th day, right? You already know. So any attorneys out there watching this video, you already know what I'm talking about. That's way past due process rights and the time, 30 days incarcerated, and and you haven't seen an attorney and you can't get an attorney and there's no state appointed attorney. So I wanted to see if these cats were going to let me out if I played guilty. Plus, I was in pain. There's many reasons why I played guilty. I was in the safe place. The FBI didn't come get my statement. The Department of Justice didn't. All this stuff, whatever. So I played guilty. These fools got me out of jail in 2 days after that. So you want to talk about Republican conservative Christians? Yeah, this is how they handle their justice here. And that's a bad thing, right? Didn't let me see an attorney. But as soon as I did, I filled out a request. I forget what they call them. In Denver, in prison, we call them kites, right? It was a kite. And we filled it out. I filled it out, my name. And I said, hey, I wish to plead guilty to this crime. These fools came, got me, and I was out in like 3 days later. It would have been 2 days, but something happened. The judge wanted to have the court session through a camera. This is summer of 2019. I forget what they call it, but it was through the camera. You see him on the screen. That's how the first court appearance of mine was, and they couldn't get the computers to work, so they had to take us down to the courthouse of Randall County, I believe, and that's in Canyon. That's in Canyon. That's not in Amarillo. That's way over there. So that's how I got out. And this judge was willing to get me a grade. They already have plans. I pled guilty. They already have plans to send me back to Denver, Colorado. They want me here. And that warrant, the misdemeanor warrant for family violence, that was only a state warrant. So how I understood that in Denver, when I found out about this warrant, I was like, damn, I wish they would have made it a felony or something, because I'm pretty sure it's a misdemeanor. And I'm pretty sure it means if I come to Texas, I can be arrested for family violence. So I took that as a signal from them to me, don't come back to Texas because we're going to arrest you. So, see, gaslighting comes in many ways, no matter how crazy I sound. I mean, I was there. I'm the one experiencing all this stuff in my personal experience. What they didn't expect was for me to bring my monkey self down here to Amarillo, Texas, right? So I worked 3 days at Subway. Man, I don't know how I did that because my body was hurting, And I came here and turned myself in, and they didn't let me, because my whole intention was to tell the judge, look, how are you guys prosecuted? How am I being prosecuted for this? Because this woman said it. It's because she's white, and I'm not white, I'm half white. And how come this doctor assaulted me, knocked me out, got me from my phone, and how come these police officers press charges on me? And then what about my work accidents? What about these doctors? that was my whole plan. They shut that down quick, and that's why they didn't let me see an attorney. Imagine me telling an attorney for the first time in person. All this that happened. I'm not pleading guilty. Right? Why? Based on what? What? I'm being discriminated. I'm a victim of discrimination. Right? Because I was, like I said, where's my statement at? Oh, we never got your statement. How come? Right? Where's due process at? Where's justice at? Because my experience is, because I'm Mexican American, I'm a Mexican Jew over here, I'm already guilty of the crime. And that's how they treated me. This ex-girlfriend called the cops. I was at the Amarillo Police Department after this altercation happened a week later. They didn't arrest me. They have my information. I gave them my Colorado ID. I still got my Colorado ID because something was off here in Texas. I didn't want to give my Texas ID. Something was, so I just had, so another thing too, dealing with PSD, and if you're not, intuition. I have to make a video on intuition, but never doubt your intuition. So that's why I never got my Texas ID, and I can prove I was discriminated. Where's my statement at? Oh, you guys already bypassed due process for me and I'm already guilty, right? That's why you guys have no interest in looking at my evidence, my statement. And that's, that was my plan, but you can't do anything without an attorney. And I was already being threatened by sheriffs over there because I was asking for medical treatment. Because when I deal, push-ups and handball, I jacked myself up, or it aggravated the injuries. Because all I did was just, lay in the bed, not sleep, because I can't, just sitting here in this chair. I'm in so much pain, a whole body, intense pain, sharp pain, burning pain, all kinds of different pain. My neck is hurting. That's why you see me touch my body, because it hurts. It hurts like I got crushed just, an hour ago. I know that's not good, but that's why I played guilty and got myself out of there. And that judge, they're ready to send me back to Denver, Colorado on Greyhound. I said, hold on, y'all tripping. I came back here, but when you're gaslighted, because what I truthfully want to tell them, say, hey, look, I didn't say I was going back to Denver, Colorado. For me, this is the, battlefront. I'm going to get my justice, or I'm going to die trying, And what I mean by die trying is that these cats are going to murder me for contacting attorneys or asking for medical treatment at the local hospitals or urgent healthcare clinics, or using the Texas Mutual Insurance Company insurance, because that's all legitimate. I still have insurance, but I'm being violently discriminated. And I'm going off my tuition and everything, so I'm not using that insurance. That's lifetime insurance too. That's Texas law. So I'll show up 20 years from now. maybe the political arena will change by then for the greater good, right? If we even have a United States, because I don't think we are. I see the Republican Party just overthrowing the United States, our own democracy. Like I told everybody in my other videos, that if it does get bad that way, we all lose our rights, right? And then we all end up being enslaved and all this stuff. I'm gonna be right there with you, telling you guys. I'm pretty sure. Look, if people would have heard my story years ago and linked up with me and did the right thing and had to go out there and protest, right? We could have changed the history of the United States, but because everybody is preconditioned to be biased, and everyone thinks that they're movie stars and they're super rich and they have high standards and all this crazy stuff, right? That they didn't want to help me, so now we're all here, and I don't want to hear you guys crying about it. This is how we got lit. So imagine me being all crippled, enslaved, right? I don't know what they're gonna make us do, right? But there's a possibility of it. So I'm out of here. I know I said that like an hour ago, but like I said too, when I began to make these, like the TikTok videos, but the YouTube videos, now I'm entrusting strangers, the YouTube developers, right? The creators of YouTube. Will they keep these videos? This is all evidence, statements. Look, the abuse that I'm experiencing going on 5 years now, right here in Amarillo, Texas. Hopefully, if something does happen to me, that the YouTube creators will hold on to it and keep it for public um, access, so that people can start seeing these videos and like, look, this guy's asking for help this whole time. They're funny. We haven't seen videos from him, and someone does investigate and find out got murdered or something, right? At least they have the videos. So, but it also helps me to relieve all this toxic experiences. I don't even call them thoughts, because this extreme PTSD. It's like, I can't get my mind off of it for nothing. Take clonidine to go to sleep. I take Seroquel to go to sleep, and those loud noises wake me up. I didn't know those were freaking nightmares. Literally, I hear it out here in the place, the house I live, loud banging or something, right? I wake up all, and I'm just fully alert. That's another thing too. Going on 5 years, how much can my heart take? I don't know. I must got a strong heart. Off the medication, trying to sleep, it's like your body's just intense, right? You're fully alert, trying to sleep. Then when you do wake up, it's just you're just vamped up. You're all the way up, like Fat Joe in his song. I'm all the way up. You're amped up. And like this morning, what woke me up was that loud. I don't know what it was. I mean, I even heard it like I was facing that way, so I heard it in my right ear, like out here, and it was actually my dream. The dream seemed so real. The loud noise, and in my dream, that's a nightmare, and it woke me up, and I was just fully alert. It's crazy with the nightmares. A lot of them nightmares, like I said, I really don't remember a lot of them, but when the ones I do is just crazy stuff. Like everything's black, and I can see like square metal plates. You know what I'm saying? It's everything's black, everything's dark, but I can somehow make out, or I can feel. I would even say I could visually see. I can feel the metal plates. And that's what the nightmares are like. Or I just have some crazy nightmares. Just I don't know, just probably regular nightmare or regular dreams. But the nightmares part is just usually dealing with darkness and metal plates and loud noises and stuff. Loud, like I said, it woke me up. So who knows what's going to happen with me and what the outcome's going to be like. But I feel better, a little better, just talking about this and understanding gaslighting now. I can't believe these people gaslit me on top of the physical abuse, right? I can't believe doctors would do this, but hey, and police officers, whatever, right? To watch these videos and billionaires, I hope the Department of Justice, I don't know if I have to file a complaint with the United Nations, because it seems like these other countries, right? So here in the United States of America, this is what it seems like too. It seems like they present like we're told, or it seems, or in the United States, whatever outlet we're getting information from, it always seems like, but it's Americanized, right? And it presents itself like we're the most advanced civilization. You start looking at these other countries that they've been telling us for the last 20, 30, 40 years that these are third world countries, right? Like in Africa, showing us the desert and stuff, and Mexico over there, the desert, right? But like places like in Arizona or Texas, it's all desert, right? They don't show us that here. But these third world countries, and you find out these are more advanced than the United States. I told you about Geneva. There's people over there making 49, in American dollars, they would be making $9,000 a year for minimum wage. That's minimum wage. And their money, their currency is 45,000 a year. So maybe I have to, these billionaires over here need a, maybe I got to file a complaint with the United Nations. It ain't gonna hurt, right? Got all the evidence over here and let them know, like this is what the United States government, Texas is doing. This is what the Department of Justice is doing. They're unresponsive, right? I'm being dehumanized by my own government. I've been blackballed. I've been gaslighted. I People look at me and now I'm just a crazy person, even though this is all true and factual. It's like all the evidence, right? So hopefully, if I do take that route and contact the United Nations, file a complaint, but for Texas government committing crimes against humanity over here, maybe that'll help me. I don't know. Maybe that'll help me get out the United States. Maybe I'll go into these most advanced, these advanced civilizations over there and get medical treatment, right? And get psychiatry treatment, and maybe I could be a better asset to their economy, right? But that's the whole intention is I hope these billionaires and millionaires that did all these crimes, these politicians here in Texas, hope you cats, man, I hope justice coming gets you. Man, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not saying for anybody to do, any crime, commit crimes against you. I'm saying justice, right? Like what Ken Paxton is supposed to be doing, right? Unbiasedly, applying justice to all these people committing these crimes against me. Yeah. And when you go to prison, I'm going to be there testifying and say, yeah, judge, give them the max sentence, life in prison. I'll let my homies know, hey, dog, look, these cats are going to prison. So you, right? Hey, that's how it is. That's just the way it is, because it's one thing to sit there and judge a person and judge communities. And it's another thing when you try to find rational, when you're in a position of power and trust and all influence and money and everything, and you choose to crap on these communities. You have higher education and you choose to get profit off these, our broken communities here in the United States of America. Yeah, I hope justice comes for you and your family, and hope all your associates, everybody that's involved in my workers' compensation claim. I hope if it takes another country to get you guys, I hope you guys get held accountable for your, atrocities against humanity. Me and other work, like I said, I don't know who else. Yeah, I know one more worker that's being, actually two workers being mistreated this way. Imagine that, working with broken limbs, working at work, having to work, no medical treatment, broken foot, broken feet, arms, whatever, and burn degrees, having burns on their skin from work, all this stuff. And what about the people that they murdered at work? Because I told you they falsified the statements, and since I reported to the Department of Workers' Compensation, they got rid of those statements. So the Texas Department of Workers' Compensation is allowing the employer, Texas Mutual Insurance Company, and these doctors to commit these crimes against me. Imagine that. Because now these things, I brought it up, they got rid of these statements, right? So I hope justice comes for you guys. I hope you guys go badly broke. I hope you guys end up in prison for the rest of your life. I hope so. I guess I need to start praying to God for that, right? So like, man, hold these people accountable. Hold them accountable. Let them get a dose of their own poison. That's what they need. Not to get murdered by anybody. Nah, hell nah. You need to go to the court system, be humiliated, embarrassed, sent to prison, right? In the news, the crimes you committed, what you did, where you're going. You need to have that on your conscience when you're going into these penal systems, because that protective custody, if it don't work for you and you go into general population, these cats are going to violate you because they don't like people like you. So I hope to God, please, please let me stay that all you people that commit these crimes against me and other people, I hope that justice comes for you guys and you guys experience that same poison that you treated me with. That's what I hope for. Go into that court system, get sentenced to life, spend the rest of your life in prison. Yeah, not in these freaking minimum security prisons either. I don't know. Maximum security or administrative. What was it called? Administrative freaking. But protective custody basically. But now they call it administrative segment or something. I just hope you guys are held accountable for your crimes they committed because you have no right to physically assault people and then psychologically abuse people and emotionally abuse people. That's wrong. You know it's wrong. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll see what God does, I guess. We'll see what good people do here in the United States of America. We'll see what the United Nations is willing to do. Everybody have a good week. Good night.